God. I don't even know where my... It's been a morning. Am I? Oh, fucking hell. Okay, hold on just a minute, please. This is not a good day. Hold on. Not a great day. What the fuck is going on with the microphone? Why the fuck? Oh my God. Okay, anyway, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to put on the hearing, and we'll just see where we go with this. But good morning, everyone. Just one of those days. Sometimes you're going to have one of those days. I hope to God the fucking sound on this thing works, but I'm not confident that it does. Hold on, let me try one thing. Oh, I'm so mad this morning. I don't know. Is that, can you hear me there? I don't know. Can you hear me there? Why am I playing out into the fucking speakers? Ah! Wait, where are those? Are those them? Fuck it. I'm gonna put you out there. Just fucking unplug you. How about that, you stupid cunt? Let's hope to God we hear this. Nope, you can't hear that. Can't hear that. Why? Why can't you hear that? I'm not sure why you can't hear that. I didn't change anything from yesterday. Fuck. I guess it's just not my day. Okay, what about... There we go. But now I sound like a fucking... I don't even know. I'm going to shut up and... whatever. You don't need me for...
Good morning, everyone. I entered the Senate the same year that Representative Gabby Giffords was shot. I knew then that the state of political rhetoric was encouraging violence. I think it's imperative now, more than ever, that the leaders in our country disavow violence and lead by example. Through the years, I've personally been exposed multiple times to political violence. I was in the right field batting cage when the crazed shooter unleashed nearly 200 shots at our congressional baseball practice. I'll never forget Steve Scalise valiantly trying to drag his body away as the gunman continued. Later that year, a Trump-hating felon attacked me from behind in my yard. I was just straightening up from picking up a tree limb. I was wearing noise cancellation headphones, never saw him coming, running pell-mell down the hill. I was struck in the back. The force of the blow sent us through the air nearly 10 feet, down the hill until his shoulder impaled me as we hit the ground. 6 of my ribs were broken. 3 of the ribs were completely separated, such that for weeks, the ends of the ribs would grind upon each other. My lung was damaged. For weeks, I could inhale, but not have the rib strength to exhale. I developed 2 pneumonias. The pain was such that I could only sit up in bed by tying a rope to the foot of the bed and pulling myself up. But even then, the pain was that of 1,000 knives. Over the year of recovery, I began to cough up blood. I underwent removal of part of my lung. Complications led to an infection in the space between my lung and chest wall. I spent a week in the hospital having the infection lavaged every 6 hours through a chest tube. Recently, the Somali welfare fraud in Minnesota stole over $9 billion. But instead of defending your vote, you took to continue the vote to continue these refugee welfare programs. You chose to lash out at me. You went on to brag that you'd already told me to my face that you completely understood and approved of the assault. Well, that's a lie. You got a chance today. You can either continue to lie or you can correct the record. You have never had the courage to look me in the eye and tell me that the assault was justified. So today you'll have your chance. Today I'll give you that chance to clear the record. Tell it to my face. If that's what you believe, tell it to me today. Tell the world why you believe I deserve to be assaulted from behind, have 6 ribs broken and a damaged lung. Tell me to my face why you think I deserved it. And while you're at it, explain to the American public why they should trust a man with anger issues to set the proper example for ICE and Border Patrol agents. Explain to the American public how a man who has no regrets about brawling in a Senate committee can set a proper example for over 250,000 men and women who work at the Department of Homeland Security. Senator Peters, you're recognized for your opening comment.
Well, thank you, Chairman Paul. Thank you, Senator Mullen, for being here today. Congratulations on your nomination. And I certainly appreciate your willingness to meet with me as well as my staff as we consider your nomination to serve as Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. I'd also like to welcome your family who is joining us today and to thank all of them for their commitment to public service. We do it as a family, as you know. The Department of Homeland Security is a complicated organization with challenging operational dynamics. As everyone is well aware, many components within DHS are currently operating without funding. But let's be clear, Democrats are committed to funding TSA, FEMA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and the Coast Guard while we negotiate much-needed ICE reforms. We tried to pass those bills by unanimous consent multiple times over the past 2 weeks. Unfortunately, Republicans have blocked those bills each and every time. Yesterday, the White House sent a letter laying out their latest offer, but the devil is always in the details. Administrative action is not enough. We need to pass real reforms into law. If Republicans really do agree with us that TSA and other personnel need to be paid, then they should join us and pass the bills to pay them today. We can do that while we continue to negotiate needed ICE reforms. But let me be clear, these are very straightforward reforms that we're asking for. We just want ICE to follow the same rules that our local police and our local communities follow every day. But DHS has faced management challenges since the start of the Trump administration, and over the past year, many of those challenges have unfortunately only increased. As soon as President Trump was sworn in, he made deep cuts to counterterrorism offices and programs, forced out or reassigned key personnel, and redirected the focus of limited remaining counterterrorism resources away from the serious threats that we face and towards targeting the president's perceived political enemies. The administration has also gutted our nation's main cybersecurity agency, once again forcing out or reassigning highly talented personnel, slashing budgets, and limiting the agency's work to help private companies address significant cyber attacks and protect Americans from criminal hackers and support secure elections. The administration has also taken an axe to FEMA, cutting staff and freezing or delaying critical grant funding for everything from emergency food and shelter after a disaster to flood mitigation programs and security grants to nonprofits, including houses of worship. All these cuts and reassignments have been made at the expense of vital missions, including the core terrorism prevention and response mission the department was created to address. In doing so, the Trump administration has broken trust between law enforcement and the communities they are intended to protect, a break that will have a generational impact on public safety and security. And now, after President Trump's reckless war of choice against Iran, the threats to our nation have never been higher. In my home state of Michigan, just last week, we saw both a major medical device manufacturer get hacked by an Iranian-backed group and a horrific violent attack on Temple Israel, a Metro Detroit area synagogue. President Trump's unilateral and unchecked executive actions have put Americans at risk, and we need a steady, qualified leader at the Department of Homeland Security to address these serious threats. How the Homeland Security Secretary responds to a crisis sends signals to everyone, from the department's own personnel to the American people and to the entire world. It's not the role of the Secretary to be a cable news commentator in the wake of a crisis. The Secretary's role is to lead the response and work to ensure the department that they are leading isn't actually the cause of the crisis. A Secretary who jumps to conclusions without the facts, as we saw in the case of Renee Good and Alex Preddy's killings, only worsens the situation and actually makes us less safe. This is a role where temperament matters, where judgment matters, and where experience matters. We have seen under Secretary Noem's leadership how shortcomings in these traits can compound the challenges that already come with leading a large and complex department. And now, more than ever, we need a DHS Secretary who is a steady hand, who will provide thoughtful leadership, follow the facts, tell the truth, and hold agency officials accountable when they need to be held accountable. We need a DHS Secretary who is committed to the rule of law and who will protect and cooperate with independent oversight, whether that's from the Inspector General or from members of Congress. And we need a DHS Secretary who is free from distractions and conflicts of interest that only undercut the department's work and also break trust with the American people. Senator Mullen, I appreciate you being here today to answer our questions about these concerns and your experience and qualifications for the job. And while I'm interested in hearing more about your vision for leading the department, I do have reservations about your readiness to take on such a significant role at such a critical time. I hope you will provide us with the substantive answers today and a candid recognition of where this administration has fallen short on safeguarding our homeland security as you seek to lead the department as our nation faces ongoing security threats and war with Iran.
Senator Mullen is to be introduced today by Senator Lankford. Senator Lankford, you are recognized for your introduction of our witness.
Paul, thank you. Mark Wayne, I'm proud that you're here. I get the honor of getting a chance to be able to recognize and introduce my friend, Mark Wayne Mullen, my fellow senator from the state of Oklahoma, and somebody that I've seen work incredibly hard to be ready for every single task you've ever taken on, and to be able to not only do it, but do it well. There are a lot of folks that think they know you. I actually get to know you, and I have had the opportunity to be able to serve beside you for now over a decade and have seen your tenacity and your work effort. Folks may not know that the first time we really got to know each other, ironically enough, was around a natural disaster, a FEMA event. It was Briarwood Elementary in 2013 when a tornado came right through the heart of Oklahoma. You had literally just been elected a few weeks before that and had just taken the oath of office. The Oklahoma delegation all gathered together at the very tragic event there at Briarwood Elementary. And while we were meeting with the principal and meeting with teachers and families and walking through the debris field that was that elementary school, we turned around to be able to look for Mark Wayne, and for a minute we couldn't find him because in one of the debris piles there was water shooting out of the middle of it, and his plumber instinct said, I got to go find that and figure out how to solve that. And so while everyone else was shaking hands and meeting people, he was digging through the debris field to find a way to be able to shut off the water that was shooting through the middle of that destroyed elementary school. And I remember smiling and thinking, he's a guy that doesn't mind getting his hands dirty to actually go solve the problem. Where there's a problem he can solve, he's going to do whatever it takes to actually solve it. Mark Wayne grew up in a very small town in far eastern Oklahoma, ironically named Westville, in the easternmost part of Oklahoma. Just 1,300 people call Westville home. He grew up in a family of modest means. I think that'd be safe to be able to say. The youngest of 7 children in a family that just didn't have much. His dad ran a very small plumbing company that then Mark Wayne took on and grew into being one of the largest plumbing companies in the entire state. He married his high school sweetheart, one of the smartest things he ever did, at just 20 years old. And he and Christy have developed a family that is a beautiful family of 3 children they had naturally and 3 children they chose that they adopted and took them in. It is a remarkable family and a remarkable success that you have actually led through a lot of hard work and a lot of love and tenacity. He is a person of faith that is not afraid to be able to talk about his faith in Jesus Christ, but he's also a person who has deep respect for all people. Mark Wayne has served in Congress for 14 years, 11 years in the House of Representatives, 3 here in the Senate. He's passed legislation that he will now be charged with actually implementing it in the order that was actually passed. He served on the Appropriations Committee here. He's served on Armed Services. He's served on the Help Committee here, and he's done an incredible job in the work that he's done with Indian Affairs. He is somebody who has the rare gift of bringing people together on both sides of the aisle. And the one thing I would say to every single person on this dais, regardless if you're a Republican or Democrat, if you want to sit down and talk about an issue, he's glad to be able to talk about it and to be able to work it out, and has very good relationships in the House and in the Senate. And he is not afraid to ask questions when he doesn't know the answer and to be able to research things. He and I have often talked about being up late, both of us, working on researching through an issue to try to be able to learn more about it, because the crazy thing about being in Congress is you don't know everything. You got to do the work. And Mark Wayne is not afraid to do the work. Over the past year and a few months, we've seen incredible progress on our southern border. Our support, leadership of the nation in so many different complicated areas, especially at a time when
Senator Mullen, you are recognized for your opening statement.
I think before I can start my opening statement, I have to address the remarks that the chairman made, calling me a liar. Sir, I think everybody in this room knows that I'm very blunt and direct to the point, and if I have something to say, I'll say it directly to your face. If you recall, back in my House days, we actually did have this conversation because of the remarks that I made. You were in a room. I simply addressed that I said I could understand, because of the behavior you were having, that I could understand why the neighbor did what he did. As far as my terms as a snake in the grass, sir, I work around this room to try to fix problems. I've worked with many people in this room. Seems like you fight Republicans more than you work with us. I did address those remarks. I did explain your gimmicks by the amendment you put forth. And as far as me saying that I invoke violence, I don't. I don't think anybody should be hit by surprise. I don't like that. But if I do have something to say, everybody in this room knows I'll come straight to you. I'll say it publicly and I'll say it privately, but I'll never say it behind your back. So for you to say I'm a liar, sir, that's not accurate. And I got proof to say that because you have spent millions of dollars in my campaigns against me, because we just don't get along. However, sir, that doesn't keep me at all from doing my job. I can have different opinions with everybody in this room, but as Secretary of Homeland, I'll be protecting everybody, including Kentucky, as much as I will my own backyard in Oklahoma. It's bigger than the partisan bickering that we have. It's bigger than the political differences we have. The truth is, I have a job to do, and I don't like to fail at anything, at all. So I can set it aside if you're willing to set it aside. Let me earn your respect. Let me earn the job. I won't fail you. I won't back down from a challenge. And I'll also admit when I'm wrong. I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. I make mistakes just like anybody else. But mistakes, if you own them, you can learn from them and you can move ahead. And I'll make that commitment to you. Ranking Member Peters, Chairman Paul, I do thank you for this opportunity. It is a humbling experience. A kid from Westville, Oklahoma,
Can you guys,
that grew up
an echo in my voice?
with a dad that worked hard. He set the work example for all of us. And all my families, and my siblings, we all work hard. And I'm proud of the family we have. But to say that a kid with a bad speech impediment would one day sit up here in front of you and be nominated to be the Secretary of Homeland, it was humbling enough to be selected by Oklahoma to be their U.S. representative when I didn't even know how to tie a tie. And 10 years later, to be able to be called a United States Senator and serve with all you guys. And I respect every one of you guys. I do. Regardless if I have an opinion about you or not, you were elected by your state, and I respect that. I may disagree with you, but I respect it because we all make decisions based on two things: the way you're raised, which never changes, and our life experiences with constantly change. For me, to be able to have the love of my life behind me, somebody I literally fell in love with in third grade, I knew I was going to marry her in eighth grade. She didn't know that yet. We had to work through that process.
I don't care about this.
But at 18 years old, and I was 19, she agreed to marry me. I didn't have anything. I was on a wrestling scholarship, living in a dorm. She was cheering at Northeastern State University. In 6 months, we're not in the lead story every single day. My goal is for people to understand we're out there, we're protecting them.
Well, that's really funny, Mark Wayne, but you aren't going to do that. Here's the other thing. The national security officials are testifying on global threats. That's starting now. I'm going to hold that, and then we're going to go through some of this questioning, then we can jump over to the national security officials. Okay? All right. Yeah, mute him. You're the backup on camera under the bus now. Just mess up and get promoted up. Exactly. I don't know what all this is. I'm sick of him already, though.
And we're working with them.
He didn't apologize.
My goal is to make every one of you.
He didn't apologize to Rand Paul, but not that I care, but I just think that's funny that these guys are such fucking assholes that they can't stop being assholes. There's no way.
You guys proud. My goal for those that don't support me, regret not supporting me. But we have to get DHS funded. We have to. My friends, we have to set the partisan side down. And we have to realize that we're putting our homeland and the peace of mind at risk for the American people. Sometimes it's political theater, sometimes it's true differences. But what we do know is that we're playing with fire. We have 280,000 DHS employees right now that are on day 30 without pay, and they're still showing up every single day to do their job.
Oh my God, stop it.
That is a dedicated group of people. And we should all be proud of them. We should all be working together, and we should all be trying to fund them.
He needs a baby voice.
So I pray, seriously, I pray
He missed Rand Paul
that we can
ripping
get
him
past
a new
this.
asshole.
That once this hearing is over,
I think of him as little, not that he doesn't, but he looks like a beaver. Like if a beaver was a human, I think that's what it would look like. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's what it would look like. I'm just saying. I'm having a really challenging morning, so I'm just going to not have as much commentary this morning. But we're going to stay with this for a while. And the only thing you missed, Teresa, was him getting his new butthole from Rand Paul. But he looks like a beaver. I'm sorry. Which is, not a bad thing. Beavers are cute. I mean, he's not cute, but beavers are cute. Anyway, good morning. Here we go.
over, and once we go through this process, I get it. I get some of it's got to be political theater. I understand it. I've had to really pray about my attitude. But I will say, once it's over, I hope we can work together and get them funded. So when I walk
He's too
in,
emotional.
if I'm fortunate enough to be confirmed,
He's too emotional. He's too emotional. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's bothering me.
if I walk in
It's really bothering me.
as secretary, that these guys are ready to go to work day one. So God bless you. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I look forward to your questions.
It's the standard practice of this committee for the chairman to ask nominees the following question. Do you agree without reservation to comply with any request or summons to appear or testify before any duly constituted committee of Congress if you're confirmed?
I do.
We'll now proceed to 7 minutes of questioning. The record should show, and I think will show, a lack of contrition, no apology, and no regrets for your support. You completely understand the violence that was perpetrated on me. You're unrepentant. The only thing you quibble about is whether I met you somehow when you were in the house. I don't think we ever met when you were in the house. And this idea that the only thing you're upset about is not that you were for violence what you're upset about is that I called you a liar because you said it to my face. So it's really more about this machismo that you have. When in Oklahoma, the media asked you about the refugee welfare programs, the programs you voted to continue funding, it was this whole idea that you were going to transfer it because you were uncomfortable, your anger, low impulse control, causes you to then go after and decide that you're going to go after me as well. And so you say you completely understood that I was assaulted from behind, had 6 ribs broken and part of my lung removed, and that was just fine. That's something that you, I guess, approve of as far as resolution of political problems. When I talked to you privately on the phone, there was no apology. You just said, well, we can let our political difference, go by. And you said a few minutes ago, we can just set it aside. Well, political differences we can, but when you say that you agree with a felon, a Trump-hating felon who attacked me, somehow you think I'm just going to set that aside? Oh, it's no big deal. I lay in pain for 2 months, had 6 ribs broken, 3 of them separated, grinding upon bone for months, had part of my lung removed, and you think that's great and to be extolled. I mean, the sheer lack of any kind of self-awareness that you're going to be leading thousands of men and women who will have the use of force, and there's been great questions in our country about how that will be used, and you think a violent attack is just fine. So I guess my first question is, do you think that justifying that kind of violence sets a good example for the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol?
Mr. Chairman, first of all, I didn't know the extent of your damage. When the phone call was made, I made it to you and I tried to talk to you. You didn't engage at all. In fact, you said, get your paperwork in. It's got to be 3 days in between.
You offered no apology.
So all this idiot has to do, all this motherfucking idiot has to do is say, you know what, Rand, I did not know the extent of your injuries and I should have done better. I truly am sorry for saying those things, and I would never wish harm on you or another colleague. That is literally all this dipshit has to say. That's it. It doesn't even have to sound like he's giving up. He can make it sound very like, gosh, you're right, Rand. I've been a fool. He would just have to play that, and it would be over in a minute and a half. But no. These 2 numbskulls are going to keep batting heads when in fact that is the biggest slap in the face to the American taxpayer, if you will, if that's who they care about so very much. Right? Like, if you really cared about your jobs, you would be the bigger person and say, gosh, you know what? I really did mess up. And I hope from here on out, you and I can really start to build together. Fuck, man. Can you not even act your way through this fucking 3.5 minutes? But no, we've got to do this because everybody's got some size of a dick, I guess. I don't know. I feel like my dick is bigger than these guys is, but whatever.
Apology.
Sir?
And you offer no apology today and no regrets.
All he has to do.
Haven't heard the word apologize, haven't heard the word regret, haven't heard I misspoke and it was heated and I made a mistake. Haven't heard any of those words.
Sir, actually, it wasn't heated, and I'm not apologizing for pointing out your character.
Good. So you're jolly well fine, and you want the American public and the people up here to vote, that may or may not vote for you, to know that you supported the felonious, violent attack on me from behind.
I did not say I supported it. I said I understood it. There's a difference.
So
that
means you really didn't approve of it, just completely understand it. What do you think most people would interpret completely understand to be? Support for or a condemnation of the violence?
Sir, as I said, we can have our differences. It's not going to keep me from doing my job as Secretary of Homeland Security. I'm going to secure Kentucky and take care of Kentucky as much as I am Oklahoma.
If this were a one-off, it would be one thing. If you just disliked me so much that you approved of violence against me, people could just write it off. Well, maybe they hate each other. But really, there's a pattern of this. Let's go ahead and roll the tape.
You know where to find me, any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution every
Hold
problem?
it. No, sit down. Sit down. Look at you. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond, Mr.
Hold
Chairman?
it. Hold it.
If he got up too, would you have gone at it right there in the hearing room?
I would have probably jumped over the dais at that point. You have to be called out on it. If not, this guy continues to get away with this stuff. And it's just, it's silly, it's stupid, but every now and then you need to get punched in the face. Well, go back to the 1800s and 1700s. They used to have canings.
And duels. And they used to have duels.
Yeah. Right. And there was a way that men used to settle their differences. I ignored him 4 times prior to that. And people say, yes, you're supposed to ignore it. Well, I'm not a very good Christian. I try to be a good Christian. And I know people say you're supposed to turn the other cheek. I prefer the David method.
But we need to move from an almost
And by the
fight.
way, I'm not afraid of biting. I will bite.
Biting?
I'll bite 100%. Yeah. I'm in a fight. I'm going to bite. I'll do anything. I mean, I'm not above it. And I don't care where I bite, by the way. It just is going to be a bite.
In hindsight, any regrets?
No, I really don't.
So no regrets. In fact, even after your anger had cooled, you were still bragging that if he'd only been brave enough to stand up, you'd have jumped over the dais and taught him a lesson, because that's how men should settle their differences. Do you think fighting as a resolution for political differences is a good example for the men and women of ICE and Border Patrol?
As you can notice over my shoulder here is my good friend Sean O'Brien. Both of us have had conversations. Both of us have shaken hands. And both of us agreed we could have done things different. Sean is someone that has become a close friend. We talk all the time.
Wow,
I've been on his
Sean
podcast.
O'Brien.
We talk through this.
Oh, your
That's
podcast.
how you handle your
Okay.
differences. Not like this, Chairman.
I'm glad you guys are friends now
Wow.
and that you've reconciled. But really, it doesn't get to the real point whether or not you think violence is the way we settle
believe
things. In the days after
he
the
would have
fight, you said, and I
pussied
quote,
out
sometimes
Paulina.
people just
Good
need to be
morning.
punched in the face. Is that still your opinion, that political disputes can sometimes and often only be resolved by violence?
No, I don't always agree with that. I don't believe in political violence. I've made that very clear. But sometimes people do
perpetrated on me.
need, theoretically speaking, sir, I get it. It's about character assassination for you. That's the way this game is played. I understand it. And you are making this about you, which is fine, but that doesn't keep me as
It's
Secretary of Homeland
character
Security.
assassination when you were the one lauding the assault. Who do you think started that character assassination? I'm just repeating what you have done in character assassination. I'm repeating your support for the assault. So that's somehow something I started?
No, sir. What I'm saying is you're adding a lot to it.
In the days after the fight, you did many interviews in which you justified the violence as historically justified by precedents, such as caning and dueling. Is it today your opinion that the caning of Charles Sumner was not only justified, but argues still for resolving our political differences with violence?
What I was simply pointing out is some of the rules that still apply to this body. For instance, dueling with 2 consenting adults is still there. I was pointing out what
It's
is
been
still
illegal for
acceptable.
170 years. There's no precedent for legal dueling. Even then, they fled the country. Do you realize that the man that
This is
beat
what
Charles
the
Sumner with a
Republicans
cane,
spend their
he
time on.
beat him till he was unconscious. You know why no senators intervened? Because his friend held a gun on the other senators, and he kept beating him until he crushed his skull. That's what you're insinuating as the president of the Senate,
I mean,
and
he's
that's
not
what you
wrong.
live by.
I'm not saying
That
he's
is a
wrong.
very, very dangerous sentiment.
But it's very convenient, you know.
After a half a dozen victory lap interviews where you pointed out that the union guy was just lucky that fear kept him from standing up, Dana Bash asked you if you have any regrets about bringing violence to a Senate committee, and you replied
Yeah,
that you have no
totally.
regrets. Today you've said you have no regrets about being happy, being completely understanding why I was attacked from behind. You had no regrets about, instigating a brawl in a Senate committee hearing. Are those still your opinions?
Mr. Chairman, you're going to have your opinion. I'm going to have mine.
Yeah, there still is
As
opinions.
Secretary of
Can we move
Homeland
on?
Security, I'm going to bring peace of mind
Honey, you're
and
not going to
security
be
to this
anywhere
country.
near the
And I'm going to stay
Secretary
laser
of
focused on
Homeland
that.
Security.
Senator Peters.
Senator Mullen, you have made several public statements suggesting that you were involved in special security forces or combat operations overseas. In 2023, you said in a Senate Republican Conference podcast, and I say, I'll quote, "There's another side of my bio that I don't ever talk about, nor will I. I had to go do something overseas." On March 2nd of this year, you told Fox News interview, quote, "War is ugly. It smells bad. If anybody has ever been there and been able to smell the war that's happening around you and taste it and feel it in your nostrils and hear it, it's something you will never forget." On March 3rd, in a podcast interview, you stated, quote, "I did special assignments outside of DOD, now DOW. I never wore the uniform or the flag on my shoulder, but I might have been in the same area." Your statements in public interviews and your responses to the committee are, quite frankly, are confusing and they are inconsistent. And I'd like you to clear this up. You're under oath. We can clear it all up right now. And first, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record my letter to you on March 11th and your addendum to the committee of March 12th regarding any overseas special assignments.
Without objection.
So my question for you, sir, is before your time in Congress, other than on vacations with your family, have you ever traveled to a foreign country?
No.
You've never traveled to a foreign country?
Outside of vacation or mission work? No.
Okay. Have you, your FBI
Wait, what?
report does show some travel.
Wait, what?
I think it was to Georgia and Azerbaijan. You marked that that was not for tourists.
Wait, what?
Are you referring to August of 2021 when we went to go get the Americans out of Afghanistan?
I'm just
That's
saying.
what
That's
that
the
travel is
one.
for, which
Okay.
we did
So
clarify that.
you have
That's the
traveled.
one.
So you've traveled to Azerbaijan and Georgia. That was in your FBI report, although you just said
We-
you've never traveled.
Sir, I thought you was referring to a different time, but in 2021, it was well documented. In fact,
Okay.
it was all over the news, and I actually did
But you
say
just
that.
said
And
no.
we put that down on the report. But that was us, which was all over the news, trying to go with
Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to stop it for a second to make sure that everybody knows what he's talking about. First of all, he just said, have you traveled outside of the country for anything other than a family vacation or a vacation? No. That's the answer. No. Well, on your FBI form, it says that you went to the countries of Georgia and Azerbaijan. He doesn't answer that, but what he does is admit that not only did he go to Georgia and Azerbaijan, but that in 2021, during the pullout of Afghanistan, which we've talked about, that he, got on a private plane, LARPed his way, and went to go save people from Afghanistan and disappeared for a few days, and everybody had to worry about where this dipshit was with his little LARPing buddies, where they all had their little circle jerk where they pulled each other's little penises and held guns and got really... But here's the thing. He just admitted to 2-3 trips that he just lied about. Like, I don't understand. Is he this dumb? Like, he literally is this dumb that he can't hold and understand how he's going to spin his international travel? This is the dumbest, 2 minutes I've ever heard. And that's saying something. Okay. Fuck, man.
extremely experienced
No,
team.
I've got other questions, thank you. But, so you have traveled overseas, despite your previous comment. Were you ever, ever an employee, volunteer, or otherwise involved with the Department of Defense, State Department, or other U.S. agency or contractor for any of those departments?
No. And Senator, I think there's a misunderstanding here that I could clear up if you want me to clear up for you.
Please?
Okay, so, which this is official trip, and it is classified. But in 2015, I was asked to train with a very small contingency and go to a certain area, which was scheduled for 2016. During that time, I was asked to go through, had to meet certain training qualifications, certain qualifications, had to go through SEER training. The training and stuff was kind of fun. The SEER training was absolutely awful. And I have spoken general about my experiences, but I've never spoke specifically on details, on dates, or on the mission. And that was official, and there was nothing in the report to the committee. Actually, it said you do not have to claim any official trips. And like I said, that was an official trip that is classified.
This is an official trip while you were a member of Congress.
Yes. 2015, 2016, I was a member of Congress.
And it was
Some of it may be public, but it would be very small. Most of it, because of my recollection, which we're going back 10 years, I think there's only
Okay.
only 4 people read in on it.
I think we're going to need to have all the information, okay? Because you're not able to keep a timeline in your head right now, sir. Okay, so now I read this because I'm like, Mark Wayne Mullen 2015 trip. And it says August 2015, then U.S. Rep. Mullen planned a foreign policy trip to Israel. That's what was reported. The visit was part of a trip to Israel with AIPAC. And he went with 40 members of Congress. So they went to Israel, and that was 2015. Now, controversy. According to Cappy Trott, the wife of former Rep. David Trott, and another participant, Mullen reportedly walked up and down the bus and placed his finger in the noses of several sleeping passengers, including spouses of legislators, for photo opportunities. This is so weird. This guy has so many weird secrets. Like, I don't think he's worth anything. Like, I think he's not a secret agent man. He's probably just a big fucking idiot. He's a LARPing idiot, maybe, probably. But I don't understand. Like, the lies are just lies on lies and lies. Like, he picked people's noses. That's what they're saying about his... Oh, my God. I can't... This is not a serious person.
So where was that
This is
trip?
not a serious person.
I just said it's classified, sir.
It's classified.
Classified?
So the letter that we sent you
How about
said
to the
that we
Congress
need to have
members who are supposed
information of any of these activities.
It
need to be
said not
provided.
official trips. Your paperwork was very clear, excluding any official trips. This was an official trip as a member.
Well, we have more questions we're going to have to ask. When in the FBI report, I asked, is there anything in that report that is classified, that you were involved in any kind of classified operation at all? And there's none.
It
So
was
the FBI
also
report-
excluding, it also said excluding official duties. It says that. And you guys had the paperwork in front of you, and it always says excluding official duties. We had this committee come to us and ask the same questions. We talked about doing mission work.
You know what I like in my administrative leaders? I like transparency. There's a little thing that this regime claims to have, which they don't, but they claim it anyway, and that's transparency. And this is not transparent. This is not transparent. Yeah, he's stuck on a loophole. So he's using a loophole in his fucking confirmation hearing for what is perhaps the biggest job he's ever had in his minuscule little life. And with the American public, he's holding shit back. Yeah. There you go, America. There you go. That's what you deserve. That's what you get.
We talked about doing mentorship, but they said official duties that was in your official capacity does not have to be talked about.
So where did you smell war?
Sir, I just said that this was classified, and the
So
dates,
there was
locations.
a war. So it was classified, but you went, and it was a war.
And admission, I've never spoke specifically details about.
Well, we can get that information.
That's
I'm sure,
fine.
Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome to get it.
We will want to find out more information
That's-
about
that's
that.
perfectly okay,
It's important to
Senator.
have the truth here and that you're portraying yourself in a truthful way. I think it's
Sir, I'm
important
not
for our
portraying
secretary.
myself in any way other than you're asking the question. I said I would try to clear it up for you.
We'll continue to work on that.
Thank you.
Didn't clear it
After
up.
DHS officers shot and killed 2 American citizens this past January, you joined top administrative officials in publicly blaming and disparaging the victims. Following the killing of Renee Good, Secretary Noem called her a domestic terrorist. You, sir, you called Alex Preddy, quote, a deranged individual that came in to cause max damage. Could we expect those kinds of quick responses if you are confirmed as secretary? Would you be basically, well, you did, you responded as Secretary Noem. Are we going to just expect that same behavior all over again?
No, Senator. I have a deep amount of respect for you. We've had our differences, but I do respect you. I think I said this privately when we had a conversation. Those words probably should have been retracted. I shouldn't have said that, and as Secretary, I wouldn't. The investigation is ongoing, and there is, like I said, there's sometimes going to make a mistake, and I'll own it. That
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What do you mean the investigation is ongoing? Investigation into what? Into Alex Preddy? Into Renee Good? Because those were supposed to have been dropped. So what investigation is going on? Is it an investigation into the DHS officers? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? This guy is a mess. This guy is an absolute motherfucking mess. I don't know if he's short or not. I don't think so. I mean, but I don't know. It's hard to tell.
one, I went out there too fast. I was responding immediately without the facts. That's my fault. That won't
So are
happen,
you going to do that
Secretary.
again?
So you regret that statement?
So you do
I
that.
already said that, yes, sir.
Would you want to apologize to the family of Alex Preddy?
Well, sir, I just said I regret those statements.
Is that the same as an apology?
I haven't seen the investigation. We'll let the investigation go through, and if I'm proven wrong, then I will absolutely.
I'm going to ask the question, are we doing an investigation into Alex Preddy or are we not? Or is he lying? Gary, why don't you ask him? Wait a minute, what do you mean an investigation into Alex Preddy? What do you mean?
How would you characterize your relationship with President Trump?
He's a friend.
How frequently have you spoken with him in the past year?
Often, most of the time about my family. If you want to explain the friendship, I'll tell you. My wife will tell you the same thing. When someone loves your kids when they're going through a difficult time, like we have, the amount of outpouring of support from the president and the friendship we saw going back to.
Let's talk about how much he loves the kids. Shall we, Mark Wayne? How do you and your wife feel about being besties with an adjudicated sexual assaulter, rapist of adults that we know of, and credibly accused of raping children, some multiple times? How do you feel about that? How are you going to square that when you walk up to those gates that you so dearly love? What's that going to feel like?
2000 or 2020 was quite remarkable. And so I speak to the president from a friend level more than I do a policy level.
Okay. I have more questions, but my time is up.
Thank you, Senator.
Doing it in a second round.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Johnson, Senator Langford, for let me skip the line. I have to, unfortunately, go to Dover for the dignified transfer, so I appreciate taking the time. It's not often that I get to ask questions for somebody who I've known for a long time. We sit here and we do political theater on FEMA. When you be specific when you say, and yet for the third time it's talked about the respect, have the liberties that we're proud, Mark Wayne. Thank you.
Left the dais.
And you will make this country proud, Mark Wayne. Thank you, and thank you for standing by a great American person.
Yeah.
Senator Hassan.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I start with
friends.
my
He thinks
remarks
he's
and my
friends with
questions,
him.
just
That's
with
rich.
regard to Senator Moreno, who has left the dais, The American people should know this. ICE is right now funded with more money than it's had in past budgets. And the partial limited shutdown that we have right now has nothing to do with ICE. Meanwhile, Democrats have consistently over the last week moved to fund the rest of the Department of Homeland Security, and the Republicans have blocked that funding. So let's just be clear about what's happening here. Now, I want to congratulate Senator Mullen and Christie for the nomination. I know your family is very proud, and I know how much you love them. I also want to thank Chairman Paul for speaking so openly about a really difficult thing, which is the actual physical impact of violence, and in this case, political violence. It is a hard thing to do, but it is a really important thing to do at this time in our country's history. So thank you, Chairman. The Department of Homeland Security was created in the wake of the September 11th terrorist attacks with a clear mission: to keep our country safe, secure, and free. The department's work includes counterterrorism operations, disaster recovery, physical and cyber protection of critical infrastructure, and immigration enforcement. The stakes for the success of the Department of Homeland Security could not be higher. And that's also why Granite Staters and Americans of all stripes have been deeply concerned about what they've seen from the Department of Homeland Security under this administration. People have been rightfully outraged about the lawlessness from the department's leadership, which has not only resulted in the death of 2 American citizens, but has also led to the hollowing out of agencies like FEMA. So to Senator Mullen and my colleagues, what happens here in this room today is not nearly as important as what happens at our border,
I'm sorry I didn't say hi to
on
you
our
earlier.
streets,
Thanks
in our
for coming
communities,
in.
and in our businesses tomorrow and every day thereafter.
Hi, Stephanie.
So, Senator Mullen, I'm going to start with a question I have asked every one of the president's nominees. If directed by the president to take an action that would break the law, would you follow the law or follow the president's direction?
Senator, thank you for the questions and thank you for the concerns. First of all, I've enjoyed working with you on several different issues. We've had very blunt conversations. To answer your question, the president would never ask me to do that.
Well, certainly everyday Americans who have served on juries would disagree with you about that. And the example he has set calls into question that answer. Let's
Senator,
move, sir.
yeah.
I have limited time, as
Okay,
you
yes,
well know.
go ahead.
In the past 14 months, Secretary Noem has fundamentally broken the American people's trust in the Department of Homeland Security. The top priority of whoever leads this department next must be to rebuild this trust. If confirmed to lead the department, how will you be different from Secretary Noem?
Senator, I think I've said this in a private conversation too. I love Senator Noem's family, and I consider them friends. But everybody has different leadership styles. And throughout my businesses, when I would have to transfer one manager to the next or one executive to another area, and now you bring in a different one, they all have different management styles. My management style is empowering people. And as I said in my opening statement, I want to protect the homeland. I want to bring peace of mind. And I want to bring confidence back to the agency. I'm not going to be the smartest guy in any room I walk into, but I know how to get talent and I know how to bring those people together.
Let me interrupt you again. I'm
Yes.
sorry, sir,
That's okay.
because our time is limited. But let's be really clear. What Secretary Noem did was give the green light to lawless behavior. Are you going to give the green light to lawless behavior?
I will operate within the parameters and the policies and the laws that you guys set for me.
And the Constitution
I don't
of
get
the
it-
United States.
Of course, the Constitution
Fourth
of the United
Amendment,
States.
among other things.
Of course, the Constitution of the United States. I'll swear to uphold that when I get sworn in. But be very clear, I don't get to choose the laws that I enforce. You guys pass the laws. I enforce those laws.
Right.
And the reason why we haven't had...
shooting a protester who was exercising his First Amendment speech and carrying a lawfully licensed gun is not a lawful behavior. Now, let's move on to another issue. Granite Staters pushed back hard against ICE's plan to build a detention center in Merrimack, New Hampshire. And despite poor communication from the department, eventually Secretary Noem canceled the plans for this facility. Senator, will you ensure that the Merrimack plan remains off the table, or will you consider restarting it?
Ma'am, I haven't seen the facts behind it. As I stated when we spoke in your office, I will work with you on this. We want to be good partners in your state and in your community. I don't know the strategic purpose of it. I don't know what has happened, so it's hard for me to state something that I haven't got briefed on. But I have made this very clear to you in private and here too. I will work with the community leaders and make sure that we're delivering for the American people what the president set out.
I appreciate that. In follow-up conversations with my office, ICE refused to comment on opening new facilities elsewhere in New Hampshire. They've said they won't do it in Merrimack, New Hampshire. But will you commit to me that ICE will not open any new facilities in New Hampshire or elsewhere in the country without the support of the local community?
Ma'am, I will work with the local community, and I'll work with you in your office.
So the answer is no, Maggie.
I won't be able to speak to that until I understand the risk and the reason behind delivering the mission that's set in front of us. We got to protect the homeland, and we're going to do that. But obviously, we want to work with community leaders. We want to be good partners, and we're going to work in your state as hard to make sure we build relationships and work in that manner.
Well,
Hi,
look,
Exile. How are you?
I will
Welcome
be
back.
here for a second round of questions because I have a lot more. But let me just point this out.
Meowing,
Americans
good
want
morning.
to secure their
Meant to
country.
say hello to you
We all
earlier.
love this country. We all know we need to be safe, secure, and we all want to be free together. The people of New Hampshire
Oh, did she lose?
will take into consideration
Exile. I'm
a
sad.
request by
I thought
ICE and the
Kat
federal
was
government
really
to
good.
do its part. But transparency
Damn.
and local control and respect of
like, share,
local
and
people
subscribe.
throughout New Hampshire and throughout the country is an essential piece of our democracy. And what I've been hearing from ICE and from other DHS folks is, well, the pushback's too hard. You either can make the case for these facilities and explain how you're going to support the local community and deal with the fact that they'll lose property tax dollars, for instance, or if you can't make the case, it shouldn't be built. So I really would encourage the department and all of us to remember that this is a government of by and for the people, and if you can't make the case for the people, you shouldn't be doing it. Thank you.
That's bullshit. I think people were really trying to
Senator
fuck
Johnson.
with her
Thank you, Mr.
campaign.
Chairman. So Mark Wayne,
I really
I'm
like her.
going
I think she'll
to
be.
use my time
She's never
completely
going to give
different
up.
than
That's
how I
one
was
thing.
going to when I walked into this hearing. I can't top what Senator Marino.
He's a friend. And our relationship started back in 2017
Okay,
when he
I
thought I
think-
was a
I think what I'm going to do is jump us over to the worldwide threats hearing with Manny, Mo, and Jack. Let's see, where are they? Hold on. Because I think we have an idea of how this one's going to go, frankly. I don't know. So let me see if this is a good...
By welcoming our esteemed panel of witnesses, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, the CIA Director, John Ratcliffe, the FBI Director, Kash Patel, the Acting Director of the National Security Agency and Commander of U.S. Cyber Command, Lieutenant General William Hartman, and the DIE Director, Lieutenant General James
We're doing the best
Adams.
we can here,
Thank you all for your
Exile.
appearance today and for your service. I also want to offer a special thanks to General Hartman,
Crowded
who is
primary,
about
that's
to enter
fucked
a
up.
well-earned and well-deserved retirement. General, on
I'm
behalf
so
of the
sorry.
committee, thank
I really
you for your
was
lifetime
hoping
of
she would
service
win.
to our nation. I'd first like to take this opportunity to commend the thousands of men and women in our intelligence agencies whom our witnesses represent. Our intelligence professionals are second to none. Because of their service, their dedication, and their sacrifice, Americans are safer at home and around the world.
Chairman, and let me also offer a good morning to our witnesses. Let me also join you, Mr. Chairman, and begin by thanking literally the tens of thousands of men and women across America's intelligence community who work every day to keep our country safe. Their work is by necessity secret. That is the nature of intelligence. But that is also why hearings like this one matter so much. Over the past year, we have seen a series of developments that raise serious concerns about the erosion of safeguards that protect both our democracy and our security. And nowhere is that more worrying than when it comes to the integrity of our elections. For decades now, our intelligence community has warned that foreign adversaries, including Russia, China, and Iran, are actively seeking to shape the outcome of American elections. These efforts have included cyber intrusions, disinformation campaigns, and covert influence operations designed to divide Americans and undermine our confidence in our democratic institutions. Protecting our elections from these threats should be one of the intelligence community's highest priorities. The DNI is supposed to be coordinating intelligence on foreign election interference, warning the American people about
You
adversaries
didn't have to do
seeking
that,
to undermine our
Exile. That's so
democracy,
kind of you.
ensuring
Oh my
that
goodness.
federal, state, and
Thank
local
you.
officials
That's
have the
very
information they
kind.
need.
Aw.
Congress even required the creation
We'll sing you a
of
little
foreign
song in a
malign
minute.
influence center inside the office of the DNI to coordinate the intelligence community's
Thank you
response
so much.
to foreign election interference and ensure that these
We give them
threats
money
are
back
properly shared
guaranteed
across
too.
the
So if
government.
you get mad at me, just
That
tell
is
me
the
and I'll
mission
send you
Congress
$5.
assigned to the DNI. But while foreign adversaries are actively probing our democratic institutions, the DNI has eliminated the Foreign Malign Influence Center and does not have a designated official coordinating the response to election threats.
Sexy Nessa.
And for months,
Sexy Nessa got
The
one.
committee has
Yay.
repeatedly requested briefings from the IC, briefings that are required by law on legitimate foreign threats to the midterms. We have received no response. Now, that silence, I believe, should concern every member of the committee because it clearly demonstrates the DNI is not interested in protecting American democracy by combating foreign influence. Instead, unfortunately, we have seen the DNI involve herself in purely domestic matters. Last month, we saw Director Gabbard personally participate in a law enforcement raid to seize election ballots and voting machine records in Fulton County,
That's a
Georgia.
compliment.
A raid
That's a big
tied
compliment.
to an election that the president lost 6 years ago. When the warrant supporting the raid was unsealed, it showed something deeply troubling. There was no foreign connection to justify the involvement of our nation's top spy. Instead, the predicate for the warrant was a slop of debunked conspiracy theories that had already been rejected repeatedly by courts, by independent investigators, and even by Georgia's own Republican Secretary of State. Yet the nation's top intelligence official was personally involved in this operation. This raises one very serious question. If the intelligence community is not being deployed to mobilize against foreign threats, why is it being deployed at all on a domestic issue? The DNI's appearance at this raid, as well
It's
as
the
her involvement
American
in
way,
seizing,
Stephanie.
seizing voting machines from Puerto Rico, suggests something that should also alarm every American. I believe an organized effort to misuse her national security powers to interfere in domestic politics and potentially provide a pretext for the president's unconstitutional efforts to seize control of the upcoming elections. Don't take my word for it. The president has repeatedly pushed for the nationalization of our elections,
Ask about the
calling for
memo.
federal government to override the state election laws and, quote, take over voting while continuing to make false statements about election fraud. And we have heard troubling rhetoric from senior officials that reinforce these concerns. As former Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said publicly, we've been, and this is a quote, we've been proactive trying to make sure we have the right people voting, electing the right leaders to lead this country. At the same time, the administration has brought into government individuals promoting conspiracy theories about our elections. The so-called White House Director of Election Security and Integrity, Kurt Olson, played a key role in efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Now, Mr. Olson holds a position inside the federal government with the authority to refer criminal investigations and access our most sensitive security information, all supposedly doing his witch hunts around elections. As a matter of fact, according to the court filings, he helped trigger the FBI seizure of the ballots in Fulton County. So it's worth asking, why is someone whose career has been devoted to undermining the legitimate results of a democratic election now operating from inside the federal government with access to law enforcement and intelligence authorities? What exactly has he been empowered to do? As members of our committee know, this committee was created in the aftermath of the unconstitutional abuses exposed after Watergate. The guardrails have been built around our intelligence and law enforcement agencies
Which
over
seems
the past
like
several
such
decades.
a
It's just for a
fucking
reason.
insignificant thing now.
Without them, America begins to
remember
look more
Watergate.
like adversaries emphasized in this year's annual threat
It
assessment.
felt very significant,
China,
even
Russia,
to me
Iran,
at
North
what,
Korea, and less
10 years
like a
old.
democracy. Confronting these very clear and present threats to American security requires experienced professionals in intelligence agencies that are focused squarely on their mission. Instead, over the past year, we've seen actions that only serve to weaken them. Politically motivated purges at the FBI has resulted in the exodus of hundreds of agents and the reassignments of hundreds more from key national security areas like counterintelligence, counterterrorism,
the whole
and
concept of
cyber, and where
homeland,
they've been
Max says it
redeployed to
best.
immigration
Look
enforcement.
at him. Look at this dipshit.
In one troubling case,
He's like,
agents
I have a
working on
vodka
a task
hangover.
force focused on threats from Iran. Clearly something that's pretty damn important right now. Were dismissed because they had previously participated in the investigation of the president's mishandling of classified information. Elsewhere,
Which I
the
think,
Bureau's budget is
would implicate Mr. Patel, so that Mr. Patel would be very nervous if that got out. All right, I need to sing a song because we had, oh, here we go. We had a beautiful gift of 5 memberships from our newest friend, Exile Two Feathers. Doesn't he have a call girl to pick up in a chat? He has a girlfriend. He has a girlfriend, but I'm likely to pass out. Hey, Meowing Star, I totally understand. I think that's a great idea. I think, yeah, stay safe out there. That's right. But here, you know what, Exile? This is for you. Thank you for the memberships, my friend. Welcome to the family of loungers. Your support means so much. Thank you, Exile Two Feathers. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. Meowing, I hope you get some good rest. Thank you.
being slashed. Last year, it cut over $500 million, with the largest decreases from cyber, counterterrorism, and counterespionage. And the remaining scarce resources are being squandered on things like a $60 million jet for the director's personal travel so he can go golfing in Scotland or partying with athletes in Milan. In fact, according to a whistleblower account, those flights became so frequent they even delayed the Bureau's response to major incidents like the Charlie Kirk assassination or the shooting at Brown University. Credible reports also indicate that highly trained FBI agents from elite SWAT units have been reassigned to chauffeur his girlfriend, an unprecedented use of personnel whose training are actually intended for hunting violent criminals and neutralizing terrorists. Unfortunately, this dysfunction has not been limited to the FBI. Both the National Security Agency and the Defense Intelligence
Ratcliffe's
Agency.
like, Ratcliffe's sitting there going like, I look pretty damn good right now. I'm just saying. Sitting beside these two morons, I'm looking pretty fucking good right now. I've kept my nose clean. I know how this story goes. Oh, Ratcliffe.
No reflection on the two gentlemen sitting in front of us. We're both left leaderless for months after the president fired their directors. One at the behest of a 9/11 conspiracy theorist, and the other for providing a fact-based assessment that contradicted the president's claims about obliterating Iran's nuclear program. Clearly, if the program had been truly obliterated, the president wouldn't be bombing again right now. And again, more than 1/3 of the personnel at CISA, created by Congress to protect critical infrastructure like power, water, and election systems, have been forced out. That seems like a real mistake as we still grapple with the intrusion called Typhoon and the recent Iranian cyber attack on Stryker. And we are now seeing in real time the cost to the State Department. Thousands of American citizens were trapped in a literal war zone with little assistance from their own government. For a time, those calling the State Department hotline for assistance were greeted with a pre-recorded message that said, quote, "Please do not rely on the U.S. government for assisted departure or evacuation." This was a foreseeable security crisis. When you start a war of choice, when there was no imminent threat, you should be able to prepare to make sure you get Americans out of the war zone. That same attitude, pushing some of our closest friends into the arms of our most capable foes, has profound consequences. Two of our most significant allies, Canada and the UK, are currently working to sign trade deals with China because they no longer believe the United States is a dependable partner. That's a remarkable statement in 2026. And in the president's war of choice with Iran, a war that has already killed 13 service members, cost American taxpayers billions of dollars, and scrambled supply chains from oil to fertilizer to aluminum, nobody answered the call when the president asked our allies to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. As the president's own counterterrorism chief acknowledged in his resignation yesterday, Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States.
Cash was there when the original trove of documents were gathered. Think Crossfire Hurricane kind of documents. So Cash has a lot of fingerprints on the Mar-a-Lago bathroom boxes. Let's put it that way. I don't think he wants all of that getting out. And he fired all of the Iran counter intel folks a week before or a few days before, I can't recall now. We actually fucking started bombing another country because some guy raped a bunch of children, basically. That's why. This is why we're here, mostly, is people don't want to go to prison. But that's not how the movie ends.
States. And unfortunately, our allies have been alienated and distracted by the administration's
because they all end up on the side of a wall at the end of the day.
And the
at the end of
result is
these
clear.
movies.
Americans have been left more exposed in an already dangerous conflict. Now, what I just outlined is quite a list, and it's a partial one at that. Matter of fact, we've got a full list we'd like to share with all the press. So what does this all mean? It matters because I believe the warnings contained in this year's annual threat assessment. I believe our IC when they say the global security environment is becoming more complex and that armed conflict is becoming more global. And I also agree with the assessment when it says that to succeed, we must think prudently and prioritize our efforts. On the topic of the annual threat assessment, I want to close where I began by noting that since the first time since 2017, in the aftermath of Russia's intervention in our 2016 elections, The annual threat assessment includes nothing about adversary attempts to influence American elections. Now, I don't believe this omission means that the threat has disappeared. It means that the intelligence community is no longer being allowed to speak honestly about it. And it raises serious questions, and I will be asking about your priorities, Director Gabbard, in terms of what you're choosing to prioritize instead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Before we go to the witnesses, now that we have a critical mass of members, I would simply like to remind members that we will handle questions as we did last year, seniority at the time
Susan
of the gavel,
Collins.
and alternating between Democrats and Republicans. We'll have one round of questions, 7 minutes per round. I will not entertain questions after 7-minute time has expired. Furthermore, I expect to convene the closed session in our usual
Josh
location promptly 30
Josh
minutes
Cotton
after
and
the
Tom
open session
Hawley.
begins. Director Gabbard,
Gas
the floor
price
is yours.
check-in. What is chat paying
Chairman Cotton.
right now?
Chair
You're
Warner,
paying
members of the committee,
$3.89.
good
It's like
morning.
$6 something
I'm here
in
today
Los
to
Angeles.
present the 2026 Annual Threat Assessment, joined by the directors of the CIA, FBI, DIA, and NSA. Before I continue, on behalf of the intelligence community, I want to extend our thanks to General Hartman for his 37 years of service in uniform and closing out his 37 years with tremendous leadership of the NSA. This briefing is being provided in accordance with ODNI's statutory responsibility. I'd like to remind those who are watching what I am briefing here today conveys the intelligence community's assessment of the threats facing U.S. citizens, our homeland, and our interests.
That's a
not
lot.
my personal
Sharon.
views or opinions. In this assessment, we're following the structure of priorities that were laid out in the President's
Well, she
national
got a lot of
security
jewelry
strategy,
on.
starting with threats to our homeland and then shifting to global risks. The defense of our homeland is of the utmost importance to the American people, and efforts by this administration have shown over the last year the results of bolstering homeland defense in the security of the American people. For example, the strict enforcement of U.S. policies at the U.S.-Mexico border and regionally have served as a deterrent, drastically reducing illegal.
Yeah, but that's not your job. You're not the head of the DHS, sweetie. Sweetie cheeks. Tulsi toenail eaters. Do you know she was in a cult where she ate the toenails, clippings of her, yeah, right? If anything, they highlight it, right? Everyone does know that she was formerly part of a cult where she ate the guru's toenail clippings. I know, I'm sorry. Good morning. Sorry about that. But anyway, so that's why I call her Tulsi Toenail. Tulsi.
Illegal immigration.
Anyway,
Based on
not to
Customs and
mention
Border
that
Patrol
she's just
data
a horrible person, okay? All cult membership aside, which, you know, is whatever. It's not my problem if she's in a cult. But the bottom line is that, like, she's a horrible person in addition to all of that. So we don't even have to insult her because of that, although I will.
January 2026's monthly encounters are
Sorry about
down
that.
83.8% compared to January 2025. Encounters declined 79% compared to 2024. The drivers of migration are likely to continue. Potential worsening instability in countries like Cuba and Haiti risk triggering migration surges, and smugglers who have long operated as transnational criminal organizations continue to view chaos as an opportunity for profit and will continue to look to profit from illegal immigration flows. These transnational criminal organizations continue to pose a daily and direct threat to the health and safety of millions of U.S. citizens.
Encounters decline because we
primarily
fired
indirectly
everybody
by
that would
producing and trafficking
find the
in illegal
encounters.
drugs. Under President Trump's leadership, fentanyl overdose deaths have seen a 30% decrease from September 2024 to September 2025.
Well, then I guess it was really only 8 months because he didn't have those 4 months. He didn't have the end of the year plus January. So yeah, Tulsi, I think Biden did that. Okay, Biden did that.
Aggressive efforts to more directly and actively target these transnational criminal organizations and reduce the inflow of fentanyl precursors has already had a significant impact, which is likely to continue. We've seen fentanyl potency also
They're
decrease,
completely
likely due to
shitty people.
disruptions to
No,
the
we
production
just laugh at
supply
people
chain.
like that. We laugh at
U.S.
the chuds.
efforts to work with China and
Especially
India to
the-
halt the flow of fentanyl
Especially all the face-eating leopards. Well, I didn't think the leopard would eat my face, so we like to point and laugh. No, we don't think anybody's redeemed because they decide that they don't like paying that for gas. No, that's not how we roll here, so yeah.
precursor chemicals to North America are demonstrating some improvement, but there is more work to be done, as sadly, there are still tens of thousands of fentanyl-related deaths in America every year. Mexico-based TCOs like the Sinaloa cartel and Jalisco New Generation cartel dominate the production and smuggling of fentanyl, heroin, meth, and cocaine into the United States. Colombia-based DCOs and illegal armed groups like the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia and the National Liberation Army are responsible for producing and trafficking large volumes of cocaine to the U.S. and European markets, with now some indicators of attempts to expand their market to the Asia-Pacific region. Colombia remains the world's largest producer of cocaine, and Colombian criminal groups have expanded their trafficking relationships with neighboring Ecuadorian and Brazilian gangs. As you know, MS-13 is well established in cells within the United States and uses violence to intimidate the Salvadoran diaspora, engaging in murder, extortion, retail drug trafficking, firearms offenses, and prostitution, fueling increased violence and instability. These and other TCOs continue to present a very tangible and individualized risk of violent crime to everyday Americans and contribute to regional instability. As the president increases his focus on counter-drug and counter-cartel pressures, they are likely to seek ways to try to adapt their operations, including shifting production locations and trafficking routes and methods. The United States continues to face a complex and evolving threat landscape with a geographically diverse set of Islamist terrorist actors seeking to propagate their ideology globally and harm Americans, even as al-Qaeda and ISIS remain weaker today than they were at their respective peaks. The spread of Islamist ideology, in some cases led by individuals and organizations associated with the Muslim Brotherhood, poses a fundamental threat to freedom and the foundational principles that underpin Western civilization. Islamist groups and individuals use this ideology for recruiting and financial support for terrorist groups and individuals around the world, and to advance their political objectives
Well, it's funny
of establishing
because actually we're the ones who are dropping bombs on people right now. So yeah, I don't know.
Islamist
I would love a corned beef sandwich. My mom used to make corned beef when we were little, and man, those sandwiches were so good.
Fate, which
Just
governs
so
based on
moist,
Sharia.
so yummy.
There are increasing
I wish I
examples of
didn't
this
eat
in
meat,
various
but boy,
European
that is good
countries.
once in a while.
And President Trump's designation of certain Muslim Brotherhood chapters as foreign terrorist organizations is a mechanism to secure Americans against this threat. In response
Of this, I know it's different when we do it. They let you do it. They let you do anything when you're a celebrity. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Ben Franklin. Oh my gosh, I love that. Good old Ben. He really nailed it, didn't he? Yeah, he was spot on. Missed my corned beef cabbage feast this year. No, really? That's too bad. Oh, sorry about that.
to setbacks to
We
their
watched a
capabilities
movie
of conducting
yesterday.
large-scale complex attacks.
Oh, we watched
Islamist terrorist groups.
We watched Giants Rising. We watched a movie. Oh my gosh, the documentary we watched last night in the Discord was Giants Rising about redwood trees. I really enjoyed that. I really needed that. I would rather have a trip up to the redwoods to see them, but this movie is really good. It's on PBS. So if you have a chance, 2024 Giants Rising. Esmeralda, good morning. $10 a gallon. I had to calculate. Oh, Esmeralda, I'm so sorry. Oh my God. Oh my God. Best Deli an hour from me closed years ago. Oh, Reuben. Boy, I sure like a good Reuben. Oh, Esmeralda, I'm so sorry. This is bullshit. Yes, definitely watch that movie. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Good suggestion. Yesterday I had cheddar and jalapenos. That's right. And ham on light rye with Subway Baja sauce. And it was a bit like a Big Boy. Oh my Big Boy sandwich. I missed it. I like the animated short I posted though. Yes. Just popped in to leave a thumbs up and comment about the 26-year-old fine ass host with the very messy hair. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff, for coming in. Yeah. We're just 26. That's all we are is 26. Don't ask me how I have a 30-year-old daughter. In the air fryer. Oh, yummy. Golly, golly. Well, thanks, Jeff. Nice to see you. Always expensive, but never have like this. Yeah, that's a record. Yeah. All right. Oh, my gosh. I love you guys. You guys are so sweet.
Have shifted toward focusing on executing information operations to spread
Now I'm
propaganda and
hungry.
inspire or enable individuals located in or with access to the West. U.S. counterterrorism efforts, primarily in Iraq, Somalia, Yemen, and Syria in 2025, were instrumental in removing key terrorist leaders and operatives, degrading the ability of al-Qaeda and ISIS to quickly reconstitute its leadership and plan large-scale attacks against the homeland and U.S. interests abroad. Strict U.S. border enforcement measures and increased deportations of individuals with suspected links to Islamist terrorists have reduced
They
access
know
to
me.
the homeland and
I can walk into Cantor's and they'll say hi, Lolo, because yeah, I love Cantor's on Fairfax. Hell yeah, they have an amazing. The Marilyn Monroe sandwich is so good. So yeah, it's true.
remove some potential sources of future terrorist attacks. Since January, U.S. officials have only had a handful of encounters at our borders with individuals associated with terrorist groups. This is a positive trend. However, our interagency coordinated efforts to continue to identify, locate, and remove known or suspected terrorists who may already be in the United States continues with vigilance. In 2025, there were at least 3 Islamist terrorist attacks in the United States. Law enforcement disrupted at least 15 U.S.-based Islamist terrorist plotters. Roughly half of last year's disrupted plotters had some online contact with Islamist terrorists inspired by Islamist foreign terrorist organizations abroad. For example, in the recent attempt to attack a synagogue in Michigan, the shooter had familial ties to a Hezbollah leader. Al-Qaeda and ISIS pose the biggest threat to U.S. interests overseas in parts of Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia, where these groups operate. In the Middle East, AQAP in Yemen, ISIS-K in South Asia, and ISIS in Syria are among the most likely groups conducting external plotting. ISIS in Syria is likely seeking to rebuild its ranks, expand support networks, and solicit funds by re-engaging with and recruiting from the likely hundreds of ISIS detainees and thousands of ISIS-linked women and children who were either released or escaped from prisons and displaced person camps that were previously run by the Syrian Democratic Forces in northeast Syria. Meanwhile, state actors present a risk broader in scope by seeking new capabilities in kinetic and cyber warfare. The United States' secure nuclear deterrent continues to ensure safety in the homeland against strategic threats. However, the intelligence community assesses that Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and Pakistan have been researching and developing an array of novel, advanced, or traditional missile delivery systems with nuclear and conventional payloads that put our homeland within range. The IC assesses that threats to the homeland will expand collectively to more than 16,000 missiles by 2035, from the current assessed figure of more than 3,000 missiles. The IC assesses that China and Russia are developing advanced delivery systems meant to be capable of penetrating or bypassing U.S. missile defenses. North Korea's ICBMs can already reach U.S. soil, and the IC assesses that it is committed to expanding its nuclear arsenal. Pakistan's long-range ballistic missile development potentially could include ICBMs with a range capable of striking the homeland. The IC assesses that Iran has previously demonstrated space launch and other technology it could use to begin to develop a militarily viable ICBM before 2035, should Tehran attempt to pursue that capability. However, these assessments will clearly be updated as the full impact of Operation Epic Fury's devastating strikes on Iran's missile production facilities, stockpiles, and launch capabilities is determined. These nations collectively will likely seek to understand U.S. plans for advanced missile defense for the homeland, probably for the purpose of shaping their own missile development programs and assessing U.S. intentions regarding deterrence. Shifting to the cyber domain, the IC assesses that China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and non-state ransomware groups will continue to seek to compromise U.S. government and private sector networks, as well as critical infrastructure, to collect intelligence, create options for future disruption, and for financial gain. The IC assesses that China and Russia present the most persistent and active threats and are continuing their R&D efforts. North Korea's cyber program is sophisticated and agile. In 2025 alone, North Korea's cryptocurrency heist probably stole $2 billion, which the IC assesses is helping to fund the regime and include further development of its strategic weapons programs. Financially or ideologically motivated non-state actors are becoming more bold, with ransomware groups shifting to faster, high-volume attacks that are harder to identify and mitigate. Innovation in the field of artificial intelligence will likely accelerate these threats in the cyber domain. The IC assesses that it will increasingly shape cyber operations, with both cyber operators and defenders using these tools to improve their speed and effectiveness. For example, in August of 2025, cyber actors used an AI tool to conduct a data extortion operation against international government, healthcare.
I certainly hope, Max, that somebody asks her about what the Jared intel is, because if you don't know, in the whistleblower report that she's been sitting on for at least now almost a year, there was two parts of that report. One of the part of the whistleblower report was about her, and then the other part was about Jared Kushner and two foreign nationals having a conversation about fucking Jared Kushner. So I hope somebody asks her about that. Of course, they determined that the information about Jared Kushner didn't, rise to the level of any kind of scrutiny. Of course they did, because we're stupid. Is that what it is? I don't know. Did she say ICBMs, no ICBMs until 2035? Don't they have them now? Or wait, are they just long range? I don't even understand. How many ballistic missiles? ICBMs can't reach it. Yeah, that's right. They can't. How's Toenails doing so far? Lee, she's really boring, and I think that's what she's counting on. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he is. I'm sure Kushner is all kinds of things. I think he's everything, and he's mostly greedy as fuck. Yeah, he's Moosehead. That's what he is. He's a Moosehead. Yeah, and Genghis Khan is sitting in Cuba waiting to attack the United States. That's probably what she's going to read next. Oh my God, we are the drama.
And public health emergency
I don't think those words
sectors,
mean what you think they
as well
mean.
as religious
That's right.
institutions.
Princess Bride, hell yeah.
Moving to the Arctic, the IC assesses that Russia, and to a lesser extent China, aim to strengthen their presence in the region through increased maritime trade, natural resource extraction, and military activity. Russia, which has the longest coastline in the Arctic, has long sought recognition of its
Josh, ICBM sounds like a cold toilet seat.
And is deploying more military forces and building new permanent infrastructure. China, though not an Arctic country, is engaged in more limited efforts in the region to advance its own strategic and economic interests.
China is not an Arctic country. That's correct.
The IC assesses that China is the most capable competitor in the field of artificial intelligence.
I don't even believe her reading from a
The IC
script.
assesses that AI capabilities are rapidly advancing and changing the threat landscape.
Oh yeah, he's got a nice green
As
tie
this
on.
is a defining technology that enables
He's
computers and
he's
machines to
got
simulate
his
human learning
mouth open.
comprehension, problem solving, creativity, and autonomy. It will be critical to ensure that humans remain in control of how AI is used and of the machines that may threaten to autonomously violate the interests of the American people across all domains. AI adoption
his
at scale
backstage
across
pass.
the spectrum of usage poses serious risks. AI has the potential to aid in weapons and systems design and has been used in recent conflicts to influence targeting and streamline decision-making, underscoring the risk and likely threats that could manifest on the battlefield. Early developers in quantum computers will give countries an extraordinary technological advantage over others to quickly process national security information and break current encryption
I
methodology
think it
used
is
to
a
protect
Fortnite
sensitive
thing.
finance,
Exile.
healthcare,
Oh my
and government
God.
information.
I think you nailed it. I think it's a fucking
The
Fortnite
global security
badge.
landscape is volatile
Oh my
and
God.
complex, with
He's
armed
alone.
conflict growing more common and posing potential threats against U.S. interests. Strategic competition and regional and smaller powers are becoming more willing to
Yeah,
use
that's
force
Nelly.
to pursue
She
their
said the
interests,
Dow's at 50.
heightening the risk of conflict. The IC assesses the space domain is becoming increasingly contested, with China and Russia developing counter-space capabilities to challenge U.S. space efforts. The threat of nuclear proliferation and advancing chemical and biological warfare capabilities continues to grow. I'll turn now to our neighborhood in the Western Hemisphere, where flagging economies, high crime rates, pervasive organized crime, migration flows, corruption, narcotics trafficking, all of these present a spectrum of risks to U.S. interests, and where strategic competitors seek to gain greater influence in the region. The IC assesses that Latin America and the Caribbean almost certainly will see hotspots of volatility in the coming year. Since Maduro's arrest, the IC assesses a shift in Venezuela's leadership towards cooperating with the U.S. to open its economy, to develop the country's oil and gas extraction capability, and we've seen their movement in releasing political prisoners. The U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement review in 2026 will likely increase uncertainty in many Latin American countries, especially those that rely on Mexico as an export destination for intermediate goods for manufacture and onward export to the U.S. China, Russia, and Iran are likely seeking to sustain economic, political, and military engagement with Latin America. The IC assesses that China's demand for raw materials is likely to continue to drive its economic outreach, while Russia likely wants to expand its current security and diplomatic ties with Cuba and Nicaragua. The IC assesses that China aims to elevate its own political, economic, military, and technological power to increase its own regional positioning, global influence, to fend off threats to their interests. While there are challenging areas where interests diverge, President Trump's diplomatic engagements with President Xi to work towards U.S. interests have enabled progress where those interests align. The IC assesses that China continues to rapidly modernize its military forces across all domains in pursuit of its goal to achieve world-class status by mid-century. This includes building a force with the aim of being capable of deterring U.S. and allied forces in the region, and to achieve their stated objective of developing the ability to seize Taiwan by force if necessary. However, the IC assesses that China likely prefers to set the conditions for an eventual peaceful reunification with Taiwan short of conflict. The IC assesses that an increasingly confident North Korean regime remains a source of concern regionally and globally. Its weapons of mass destruction, its conventional military capabilities, illicit cyber activities, and demonstrated willingness to use asymmetric capabilities poses a threat to U.S. and its allies, particularly South Korea and Japan. North Korea's partnership with Russia is growing, and in 2025, Kim took steps to improve ties with China, still North Korea's most important trading partner and economic benefactor. The IC assesses that North Korea's support for Russia in the war against Ukraine has increased North Korea's capabilities as their forces have gained combat experience in 21st century warfare, along with equipment. In 2024, North Korea deployed more than 11,000 troops to Russia to support combat operations in Kursk. Pyongyang continues to develop and expand its strategic weapons programs, including missiles that can evade U.S. and regional missile defenses. It is continuing to work to increase its nuclear warhead stockpile and maintains biological and chemical weapons capabilities. Russia retains the capability to selectively challenge U.S. interests globally by military and non-military means. The IC assesses that the most dangerous threat posed by Russia to the U.S. is the potential of an escalatory spiral in an ongoing conflict such as Ukraine, or a new conflict that led to direct hostilities, including the potential deployment of nuclear weapons. The IC assesses that Putin continues to invest in Russia's defense industrial base, as well as novel capabilities that may pose a greater threat to the U.S. homeland and forces abroad than conventional weapons. Russia has advanced systems, hypersonic missiles, and undersea capabilities designed to negate the U.S. military advantage. Moscow also relies on other tools to exert pressure using gray zone tactics to further its goals and compete below the level of armed conflict. Russia is also building an extensive counterspace capabilities to contest U.S. space dominance. Its development of a nuclear counterspace weapon poses the greatest single threat to the world's space architecture. During the past year, the IC assesses that Russia has maintained the upper hand in the war against Ukraine. U.S.-led negotiations between Moscow and Kiev are ongoing. Until such an agreement is met, Moscow is likely to continue fighting a slow war of attrition until they view their objectives have been achieved. In the Middle East, conflict and instability will shape security, political, and economic dynamics in a variety of ways. The IC assesses that Operation Epic Fury is advancing fundamental change in the region that began with Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7th, 2023, and continued with the 12-day war last year, resulting in weakening Iran and its proxies. The IC assesses the regime in Iran appears to be intact but largely degraded due to attacks on its leadership and military capabilities. Its conventional military power projection capabilities have largely been destroyed, leaving limited options. Iran's strategic position has been significantly degraded. The U.S.-led maximum pressure campaign and snapback of European sanctions added additional pressure to an already bleak Iranian economy, resulting in mass protests earlier this year that Tehran suppressed by killing thousands of protesters. Even if the regime remains intact, the IC assesses that internal tensions are likely to increase as Iran's economy worsens. Even so, Iran and its proxies continue to attack U.S. and allied interests in the Middle East. The IC assesses that if a hostile regime survives, it will likely seek to begin a years-long effort to rebuild its military, missiles, and UAV forces. Prior to Operation Epic Fury, the IC assesses Iran was trying to recover from the severe damage to its nuclear infrastructure sustained during the 12-day war and continued to refuse to comply with its nuclear obligations with the IAEA, refusing them access to key facilities. The IC assesses that China, Russia, and North Korea see the United States as a strategic competitor and potential adversary. Iran has long viewed the U.S. as an adversary and is engaged in active conflict with the U.S. as of today. These four countries, the IC assesses, are likely to continue their selective cooperation with each other, which could bolster their individual capabilities and threats to U.S. interests more broadly. However, currently these relationships are primarily bilateral on selective issues and depend on broader circumstances, divergent sovereign interests, and in some cases, concerns over directly confronting the United States. These factors, the IC assesses, are likely to constrain their relationships. Finally,
these threats?
conflicts on the continent of Africa are likely to persist through 2026 due to poor governance, economic demands, and external support. Tensions continue between Ethiopia and Eritrea, which could rapidly accelerate to conflict. Contentious national elections in Somalia could distract the federal government away from counterterrorism actions against al-Shabaab, which continues to conduct terror attacks while providing funding and propaganda support to other elements of al-Qaeda in Yemen.
I don't know how one person can make international threats so boring. Now, I get that this is when you should listen most closely, but I am telling you right now, I now know what her secret weapon is. She is absolutely the most boring person on the fucking face of the fucking planet. Literally. I'm falling asleep when I am totally interested in what she's telling us, but she is the worst. Oh my God, that's her secret weapon. She puts people to sleep.
The civil war in Sudan continues, even as external negotiations occur. ISIS in West Africa and the Sahel have increased the intensity of their attacks against local security
there are now
forces,
because we're such
expanding their
fucking
areas of
assholes.
operation and moving closer to cities with the U.S. presence. The IC assesses that
The future
African
leaders who
governments
don't
will
exist
likely
yet.
use their wealth in critical minerals
Yeah,
to
she's
seek
a
partnerships
siren.
that deliver them meaningful benefits.
She's a siren, and we're on the boat with Ulysses, and we're about to crash. Okay, because all these morons are like, I gotta listen to her. Of course, wait, am I the moron? No, wait, anyway, point is, She's the
fit.
moron.
Concurrent conflicts and crises across
so
the continent will
boring.
continue to put U.S. citizens at risk and cause further instability.
Oh, right.
In closing, as leaders of the intelligence community, we remain committed to providing the president and policymakers with timely, unbiased, relevant
exactly. It's
intelligence
also,
to
there's
inform
all kinds of
decision-making
reasons people
and
get
to ensure
pissed
the
off.
safety, security, and freedom of the American people. Thank you.
Thank you,
Oh,
Director
my
Gabbard.
God, I thought it
General
would never
Adams,
end.
Camden, Arkansas is the home of brand new production lines for the Israeli missile defense interceptors.
what are
Could
we
you
doing?
please explain how Critical Arrow and Iron Dome systems being built in Camden
Does nobody else get to do the opening
are
statement?
for not only Israel's defenses, but the defense
don't know
of
if she did or
hundreds of
not.
thousands of American citizens and troops
She's
in the region?
Scylla. Okay.
Chairman Cotton, thank you for that question. And I have to say that the Arrow system and the Iron Dome system are critical defensive systems that prevent adversary power projection from impacting the targets in the friendly areas in Israel. The Arrow system itself is the high altitude, primarily against MRBMs, and it's proven to be very, very effective against those systems. The Iron Dome is more of a closer-in system, protecting against rockets and things of that nature. But the combination of those two with U.S. systems creates a shield to prevent those attacks from the Iranians impacting key areas in areas where they're protecting.
Thank you, General Adams. I was recently in Camden with Secretary Hegseth as part of his Arsenal of Freedom tour, and they are great Arkansans who do great work to keep our nation safe. General Hartman, we've often spoken about our pressing need for more cybersecurity manpower and part-time formation, such as the Arkansas Air National Guard's 223rd Cyberspace Operations Squadron are a great way to grow the force. What recommendations do you have to grow these cyber protection teams and develop more capacity for local and national missions?
Chairman Cotton, thanks for the question. I did hear a little bit about the great team in Arkansas there, and I know 855 CPT operates from that formation. And so for us, certainly looking at a number of different initiatives. One, ensure that we can share all of the relevant top secret classified information and other sort of indications and warning that the organizations need.
Follow me
But I will
for
tell you,
more
I'm an
beauty
advocate
tips.
for an ability to establish some sort of joint reserve
Galatea, I love that
cyber
name.
organization, and so
Don't
that
make her
at
Galatea.
Cybercom we can ensure that those organizations have all of the advanced
No.
training that they need to ensure that those organizations
did.
have access to all of the intelligence that they need, and to ensure that we control some level of funding at both Cybercom and NSA that can be used to mobilize those personnel to handle the most difficult problems that we're faced with. And we have been working with Congress on some of that language and the department, and we appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, General Hartman. As I said in my opening, we only have this one public hearing a year, even though the committee hears from each of you several times throughout the year in classified settings. So we don't often have a chance to tell the American people what great work their intelligence professionals are doing for them. So Director Ratcliffe, could you take the opportunity to maybe join in the excellent briefings that Secretary Hegseth and General Kane have provided on a regular basis over the last couple months on the military aspects of both the Maduro raid and Operation Epic Fury to explain the CIA's contributions to those operations?
Thank you, Senator. You know, last year when I was here in my confirmation, I promised you all, and you had all asked for, a more aggressive CIA, one that was focused on core mission.
Hi, Carrie.
Getting back to the business of stealing secrets, to be able to provide our policymakers with a decisive strategic advantage that would allow and advance and contribute to foreign policy and national security successes. To the credit of the CIA workforce, the CIA has delivered.
You know, here's another thing. I don't think we need the CIA. I'm sorry. I think they have to prove their existence. I think they have to prove why they should still exist. I think of them like Department of Homeland Security. We don't need them. We don't need them. We don't need the CIA. I mean, how many intelligence agencies do we need? Really? I mean, I don't mind having an intelligence agency. I don't mind having them try to understand stuff. That's fine. I'm sure there's a way to do that. That makes sense. But I just don't think we need the CIA anymore. Oh, they do receive unlimited funding? I didn't know that. You know, like, I just don't, we don't need them. They're certainly more trouble than they're worth. You know, the CIA is fucking the fuckers of a lot of things, of course, throughout the world. So, I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, exactly. I mean, I you know, to be honest, yes, I would revisit every agency in some ways. I don't know what their mission is. What's their mission? I don't even know what their mission is in relation to other, like the NSA and the, you know, well, Director of National Intelligence makes sense, but NSA, FBI, CIA, like, do they all do the same thing? I don't get it.
Those successes.
Is it terror? Oh, they're domestic terror. NSA is signals intel. FBI is domestic law enforcement. And what is CIA? Is human intel. Okay, well, that seems like a lot for like 3 huge agencies. Don't you think that we could consolidate those? That's what I wonder. Couldn't we just, she's Sean from The Good Place. Oh, okay. CIA is supposed to be foreign intel. I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of, like, they're just more trouble. This guy certainly doesn't give me any confidence.
Have been very public. As you mentioned, Senator, Operation Midnight Hammer.
Well, yeah, there you go.
Operation
Secret Service,
Absolute
too.
Resolve.
Yeah, no, I've got a lot of them.
Flawless military operations like that are
well, and never mind
hostage
DHS. Like, get the fuck rid
a
of them.
flawless intelligence picture. And
That's
the
dumb.
CIA, as you know from classified briefings,
nobody's
contributed
safer.
in myriad
Okay?
ways to
Prove
the
it.
success of that. But what I would say to you is those successes are just emblematic of the phenomenal progress and success really by every measure, every metric, every standard across every national security space with regard to the work of the CIA. Senator, you mentioned some of it in your opening. The increase of our asset stable and our human sources up by 25%, our FI collection across the board, our foreign intelligence collection up by 25% overall, and in important categories like China, for instance, up 100%. In areas like tech and AI, up 45%. On the counter-narcotics front, our operations up by 70%. And with regard to counterterrorism, those are classified numbers that I'll share with you in the classified portion of this hearing, but they're off the charts good. The best way I can summarize it, Senator, is I had a 32-year veteran of the agency retire this year, and he said to me, I hate to go. I don't know if this is the best year that the CIA's ever had, but it's the best year I can ever remember. And I think that reflects the current morale of the CIA. It's a workforce.
You know what that was? That was the tequila talking. Okay. Joe wasn't really getting nostalgic. Okay, there. John Ratcliffe. That was just the tequila talking. Okay. That's it.
Knows it's doing a great job.
Yeah.
It knows that it's being allowed
right.
to do what they signed up to do, which is provide that decisive strategic advantage to our country for great successes that everyone can see. So I thank you for the opportunity to let me recognize the CIA workforce.
Thank you. Director Ratcliffe, I want to address one specific threat from Iran, the threat of an intercontinental missile, which is really just the combination of 2 technologies, one thrust to get something into space and a reentry vehicle to get it back to Earth. Iran has always had a space launch program, which is flimsy cover for the first part of that intercontinental missile program. I haven't seen any Iranian astronauts in space lately. And second, they have medium-range ballistic missiles, which already have a reentry vehicle. So if you crudely married those 2 technologies together, I've heard some analysts say that Iran could have had a...
Then why didn't they do it? If they could do it, and it was their intention to do it, then why haven't they done it? Josh Cotton, Tom Hawley, same person. I hate this.
Functioning intercontinental missile to threaten the United States in as few as 6 months. Would you agree with that assessment?
Well, how about
you're,
6 minutes?
You're right to be concerned about Iran's
what the fuck have they been
development of
doing?
long-range ballistic missiles, Senator. If Iran were allowed to develop at the IRBM ranges, which is 3,000 kilometers, it would threaten most of Europe. And yes, as you mentioned, we know that Iran is gaining experience in these larger, more powerful booster technologies through its
sounds really good, Jane.
so-called Space Launch Vehicle program. If left unimpeded, yes, Senator, they would have the ability to range missiles to the continental U.S. It's one of the reasons why
Have they done
degrading
it?
Iran's missile production capabilities that is taking place right now in Operation Epic Fury
Didn't we
is
knock
so
them out?
important to our national security.
Thank you, Vice Chairman.
Oh, nice
Thank you, Mr.
cover for
Chairman.
the orange man there.
Director Gabbard, the whole country knows that you were recently involved in an FBI operation to seize ballots in Fulton County, Georgia. Yet this was despite the fact that the warrant showed no foreign interference or nexus. Matter of fact, the warrant was based entirely on conspiracy theories that have already been examined and rejected repeatedly. Now, where is the authority for you to involve yourself in a domestic law enforcement activity?
Thank you, Vice Chairman. I appreciate the question. As you know, I've addressed every issue you've raised in detail in a letter,
No,
but
apparently
I'm grateful for
not.
the opportunity to do it in this forum.
This is oversight.
As you
of
stated,
intelligence.
Congress provided by
Apparati.
statute ODNI with the responsibility of election security and counterintelligence in 2021. As you also know, ODNI has purview and
Ma'am,
oversight.
I know the history very well, but could you just
I am
address
addressing the
where?
question. ODNI also has purview and overview over two domestic related agencies, the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, both of which have purview over election security responsibilities to ensure the integrity of our elections. I want to correct one of your statements that you've made multiple times, which is false. I did not participate in a law enforcement activity.
Oh, you bitch, you
nor
did.
Would I, because that does not exist within my authorities.
Bitch, you
That's
did.
on the scene.
I was
Are
at
the photos,
Fulton
are the
County.
photos of you on the scene
I was
false?
at Fulton County, sir, at the request of the president.
Why?
And to work with the FBI to observe this action that had long been awaited. I was not aware of what was in the warrant or was not in the
And what was the
warrant.
president's specific
And to
request for
say
you?
thank
what was the
you to
What was the
request?
specific
FBI
request that
agents for
was
their
made by
work.
the president for you to show up in Fulton
To
County?
go and observe the FBI's activities
Why?
on this issue.
So why?
When you
why-
look at the
Why?
Do you
forward
have the
question,
answer?
sir.
Do you have the answer why the president was knowing about this
question, sir.
affidavit
Why did
before
the
it was even
president know?
served?
I'm not aware that the president knew about an affidavit
Why do you-
before it was served.
Then why was he?
Then why'd he send you? If he didn't know it was happening, why did he send you? If he didn't know it was happening, how did he send you?
Sending you to Fulton County.
This occurred the day that the FBI
Oh my
had it
God.
approved, their warrant approved by a local judge.
Oh
and they
my
began
God.
to execute this. To
Wow.
address your question, sir, about the foreign nexus question. In order for us to better understand the vulnerabilities in our election systems that may exist today as we look to 2026, and yes, we are very focused on trying to make sure that this election is one that the American people have
Director
faith.
Gabbard, I've got a number of
count their
questions.
votes
Director
as
Gabbard,
cast-
I have a number of questions. Let me ask my next question, please. You have not provided any of the required reports or briefings to this committee on foreign interference. This is the first threat assessment since 2017 that didn't even mention foreign interference. Last year, when you were in already confirmed, it mentioned it at high level. Are you saying there is no foreign threat to our elections in the midterms this year?
As I stated in the outset of my remarks, this year's annual threat assessment matches the prioritization of threats and
Please answer the
focus
question, yes or no. Is there foreign threat interference
that
to
the
our
president
elections this
has
year?
laid out.
Are there foreign?
Please allow me to answer the question, sir. The intelligence community has been and continues to remain focused on any collection and intelligence products that
ma'am,
show a potential
ma'am.
foreign threat for those who are
So
seeking
far,
to
there has been none then, because you've made
in our
no
election
reports.
system.
Excuse me, ma'am. If you want to ask the questions, you should have stayed in Congress. Please answer the questions.
I didn't ask you a question, sir. I'm trying to answer your questions.
So you're saying the failure to provide any reports or the failure to have any mention of a foreign threat assessment I would draw the conclusion there must be no foreign threat to our elections in 26. So that brings me a question that I have for both you, ma'am, and Director Patel. There are reports that in 2020, the president was preparing an executive order to potentially seize ballots or bring in federal forces.
I just want to take this moment to take you back in history a little bit. Hold on, let me just hold on. Let me take you back to 2021 with Gal Squad and EO 13848. We almost got tattoos because it was such a part of the work that Gal Squad did to expose the plan to overturn the election. So yeah, we know about EO 13848. Damn it.
There is a published report
Strap in.
that there is a similar EO being drafted right now about 2026, citing China. Director Patel, do you have any knowledge of that draft EO?
Thank you, Vice Chairman. I do not, sir.
Director Gabbard, do you have any?
I do not.
Thank you. Let me move to Iran.
Paul
Now,
Day.
I understand, and I appreciated Director Gabbard, your comments yesterday.
Oh, you'll find out,
the president
Exile.
has sole authority, I guess, in his bones to declare whether something is an imminent threat. I didn't agree with your friend, Mr. Kent, but I didn't, again, I agreed with him yesterday on the fact that there was no imminent threat. I guess what I'm concerned about, one thing is, even in your printed testimony today on page 6, and your last paragraph on page 6, as a result of Operation Midnight Hammer, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated. There's been no efforts to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. You omitted that paragraph from your oral opening. Was that because the president had said there was an imminent threat 2 weeks?
No, sir, I recognize that the time was running long, and I skipped through some of the
So
portions
you chose to take
of my
omit-
oral delivered remarks,
You chose
sir.
to omit the parts that contradict the president. The president continues to say as well that, you know, he had no idea, was shocked that the Iranians had moved to take over the Strait of Hormuz. Did you provide any intelligence that would say that it would be that it was not likely that the Iranians would try to move on the strait?
I'm not aware of those remarks, and I think those of us here at the table can point to the fact that historically the Iranians have always threatened to leverage their control
But
over
why
the
would the
Strait
president
of
say he was
Hormuz.
amazed? Or,
I'm not aware of those remarks.
What about the comments the president made that thought that he was surprised again, reports that Iran struck the adjacent Gulf states?
Again, I'm not aware of those remarks. We have
Well,
been
let me
and
ask you this.
continue to
Did
provide
you
the
brief the president? Did you brief the president? Did you brief the president if he starts a war of choice, that the likely result would be that Iran would strike adjacent Gulf nations and close the Strait of Hormuz? Did you brief him on those two facts that I think have been consistently the assumptions of the intelligence community?
I have not and won't divulge internal conversations. I will say that those of us within the intelligence community continue to provide the president with all of the best objective intelligence available to inform his decisions.
Senator Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Unfortunately, I missed that part, Senator. I missed that part when I was supposed to tell him that Iran would close the Strait of Hormones, the Hormone Straits. I also didn't tell him it was called the Hormone Straits, but I'm just telling you right now, Senator. I know. I'm not really. I don't know what he said. As plausible deniability. Have you heard of it? I use it a lot in my life.
Director Gabbard, you just testified that ISIS and Al-Qaeda
rapture
are
her,
significantly
Susan. It's time to
weaker.
go.
And reflecting that view, you have devoted declining budgets, personnel, and emphasis on countering
Yes, he does.
terrorism.
Yes.
Yet
The Afro Man case
the
is happening right now.
fact
God
is
bless him.
that ISIS is growing and operating
no,
in
he's just
Somalia,
hormones.
Afghanistan,
He called it the hormone
Syria,
straits.
Pakistan,
So that's what I'm
and
calling
Iraq.
it.
Al-Qaeda is surging in Afghanistan, the Arabian Peninsula, and throughout Central Africa. The Houthis in Yemen and the rest of the Iranian proxies remain a
Really? Do they remain a serious threat, Susan? Because someone was remarking on international news, I think late last night, early this morning, that it's interesting that the Houthis have not done anything during this time in the Suez Canal. Susan, so is it, or is it just another boondoggle that you're trying to sell us and somehow make it okay for you to vote along with Nazis? Is that it, Susan? Are you concerned about that? Christ.
serious threat.
Ridiculous.
Focusing, as you have done,
it's
on
way
great
American.
power competitors seems to have diverted resources from the fight against terrorism, a fight that's very much still going on. As I have said repeatedly,
drinking bourbon?
it is terrorists who want and can kill
I don't know. I hadn't heard
Americans
that.
today.
I would kind of
We've
be
just
surprised.
seen
New
the
York City. Why New York
terrorists
City?
in Michigan
I don't get
attacking
it.
the synagogue. In addition, it appears that a more stovepiped effort in the Intelligence Committee has returned. How are you ensuring that Americans are safe and that you are countering counterterrorism threats to our homeland and to U.S. citizens abroad?
Thank you, Senator Collins, for your question and the opportunity to clarify the comments in my opening statement. My reference to the size of ISIS and al-Qaeda organizationally is smaller and weaker than it was during its peak over a decade ago. However, I completely concur with your remarks about the threat of ISIS, al-Qaeda, and other Islamist terrorist groups around the world and the threat that they pose to U.S. interests.
Yes. Actually, it was quite a long time ago. I'm reading an article from 2016 from Deutsche Bundesbank, which meant in 2015 they pulled their gold stocks from New York and they consolidated them in Frankfurt. So I think it happened a while ago. I think they took their gold reserves. And then there's an article too. So that was Deutsche Bundesbank. Repatriate the gold. German economists advise withdrawal from U.S. vaults. So this is kind of funny because this happened a long time ago for some of the German bank, for the big German bank. So it's kind of weird that, it did. I mean, they did make that call last month. So you're right. But it's interesting that 10 years ago is when, the big bank in Germany did that, right? They consolidated their gold stock in Frankfurt. But Germany is facing calls to withdraw its billions of euros worth of gold from U.S. vaults, spurred on by the shift in transatlantic relations with the unpredictability of our idiotic despot. Germany holds the world's second biggest national gold reserves after the U.S., which approximately 164 billion euro, worth about 1,200 tons, is stored in New York. So there was still a large amount of gold being held in New York or here. Yeah, I know. Very odd. Thank you for mentioning it. Let's see. Called for the gold to be brought home, saying it was too risky for it to be. I'll link this article. Too risky for it to be kept in the U.S. under the current administration. That was just in January. All right, I'll link that Guardian article about the new one, and I'll link the old one about just that particular move in 2016. So thank you for bringing that up. I love it. Oh, right. A bunch of countries moved to USA gold to avoid the tariffs. Oh, Tom, thanks. That's part of economics that I don't really totally get all the time. Okay, sorry about that. Thanks for that.
Service members
Yeah,
and directly
right.
to the
Oh, 'cause it
homeland.
didn't materialize.
Our
Okay.
ODNI National Counterterrorism Center has been at the forefront of ramping up, and I believe is more active today than it has been certainly in a long time. We are dedicating every resource that they ask for, as well as the counterterrorism elements across the IC, to make sure that we are never taking our eye off of this persistent threat to the American people. The change in tactics based on the current environment is something we continue to be most concerned about. We are seeing less indicators of large-scale organized complex threats or attacks, and instead efforts focused on individuals either who have been radicalized by Islamist propaganda and may not have ever had contact with ISIS or Al-Qaeda, for example, and others who have had contact, of which we are able to have more indications of. This remains and will be, and as we come to present our budgets to you, a foremost and primary priority. The integration across the intelligence community on the counterterrorism threat occurs every single day, with our teams working very effectively together to thwart terrorist attacks as we have over the last year.
Director Patel, I'm going to follow up on this issue with you. ISIS targets potential recruits online through social media, gaming platforms, encrypted messaging apps. ISIS even facilitated a network online to smuggle illegal immigrants into the United States. Since April 2021, there have been more than 52 jihadist-inspired cases across 30 states. What measures is the FBI taking to prevent foreign terrorist organizations from recruiting or influencing Americans, while also ensuring the protection of individuals' right to privacy?
Thank you, Senator, and I think you said it best. They have transferred their capabilities in terms of personal recruitments to online recruitments, which makes any terrorist organization, including ISIS, all the more powerful. What we have done is extended and expanded resources to environments like the Threat Screening Center, which allows us to collect biometric capabilities from all over the world. We've had a double-digit increase in that and a double-digit increase in intelligence production. But what we've also done in the CT space specifically is expand the number of agents and intel analysts that go online and detect, based on our biometric capabilities and intelligence that we have from the interagency. And what that leads us to is what we saw in December of last year, Senator, where we at the FBI stopped 4 terrorist attacks, 4 in California, Texas, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, 3 of which were ISIS-inspired. We were able to detect these individuals both online and in person using our covert platforms, and we shuttered a bombing campaign in Southern California and 2 mass casualty events for New Year's Eve.
Director Gabbard, the intelligence community did not detect an extremely serious breach affecting our telecommunications industry due to the Chinese Salt Typhoon incursions for a very long time. In addition, the Chinese Volt Typhoon threat poses a terrible threat to U.S. critical infrastructure. Specific sectors throughout the United States have been overlooked and underprotected. What are you doing to deal with the threat to critical infrastructure, our electric grid, our communication systems, given this huge miss by our talented intelligence community?
Thank you, Senator Collins, for the question. Working with our partners at NSA and others to detect these threats and how they may be evolved or developing is something we're continuing to work on. Building strong partnerships with the private sector, whether it be in the telecom industry, the financial sector, the healthcare sector, the energy sector, is something that I'm rebuilding. We've seen some of these ongoing relationships falter over previous years. I've personally been astounded by some of the conversations I've had with leaders from these industries who are just as concerned as we are about these threats to our critical infrastructure. and yet don't feel that they have the connectivity or the information to be able to secure their own infrastructure. So in short, building those stronger partnerships, integrating and being able to share information intelligence where we can is critical for us to be able to secure our country from these threats.
Thank you, Senator Collins. Senator Wyden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Gabbard, last year your agencies testified, and I quote, Iran's large conventional forces are capable of inflicting substantial damage to an attacker, executing regional strikes, and disrupting shipping, particularly energy supplies, through the Strait of Hormuz. In other words, every problem we're seeing now was not only foreseeable, but was actually predicted by the intelligence agencies. So, Director, in the lead up to the start of this war 3 weeks ago, did the intelligence agencies stick to their assessment that in response to an attack, the Iranians had the capability to shut down the Strait of Hormuz?
Thank you, Senator Wyden. The intelligence community has continued to provide the president and his team with the intelligence related to this operation in Iran before and on an ongoing basis.
So right now, we're in a global energy crisis. We're paying more for gas. The economy is in danger. And it seems to me, and I heard you discuss this with Senator Warner too, that there's a lot of hedging going on with respect to entirely foreseen consequences of the war. And that strikes me, Madam Director, as what amounts to a historic mistake. Now, my second question is, did the intelligence agencies assess that the Iranians could respond to a regime change attack from us by attacking U.S. forces and other Americans in the region?
The IC assessment has always taken very seriously the threat of the Iranian regime's missile capabilities and how our American troops within the region may be put at risk.
Again, you know, it seems to me with Americans dying in the war, it's hard to see how you can sit here and say that the intelligence agencies couldn't provide a clear warning that if attacked, the Iranians would respond by attacking our people. Now, on Monday, Madam Director, Donald Trump was asked about Iranian strikes on the Gulf states. He said, and I quote, no, the greatest experts, nobody thought they were going to hit the Gulf states. You all are supposed to be the greatest experts. That's what we have you there for. Director Gabbard, did the intelligence agencies assess that Iran could conduct strikes on our own partners in the region if it was attacked?
The intelligence community has continued to assess the potential threats to the region, the existing threats to the region, and providing those.
Did you or did you not tell the president that there was a chance that they would bomb Gulf state partners? Did you? Not would you. Did you?
Assessments to the policymakers and decision
I know.
makers.
Definitely. I didn't watch the court case with Afro Man yesterday, but I saw he's wearing his American flag garb. He's all decked out. So I do look forward to catching up with some of the testimony in that case. So thanks for bringing that up. God bless everyone standing for free speech and freedom, like real freedom, not the fake chud kind. Anyway.
Let me move on to several others of you with respect to 702 of FISA, and I'm just going to start with you, General Hartman. When Congress last reauthorized Section 702 of FISA, it included a provision that expanded the type of companies and individuals who could be forced to assist the government in its spying. Has this expansion resulted in any intelligence, General Hartman?
Senator, thanks for the question. Just to be clear, this provision provided us an ability to collect foreign intelligence on personnel outside of the United States.
Is the major?
Okay, I think we're getting to the Jared. Part.
Major 702 issue in terms of expansion. What was the effect of what was done?
Senator, I would prefer to talk to you about exact specifics in the closed session.
I'm happy to do that. Let's understand, though, this is a dangerously broad provision that could be used to rope in anybody with access to a cable box, a Wi-Fi router, or a server. It was jammed into the 2024 reauthorization bill at the last minute. Senators were told they had no choice but to support it. And now, 2 years later, we've just had testimony from a very respected individual who's saying, so far it has had no value. So colleagues, we are getting ready to have another discussion on this, and this ought to be a warning to every senator that not every new spying power that is sold as urgent and critical actually is.
Senator, could I please respond to that?
Of course.
So Senator, I just want to be clear. It provided us no additional authority that doesn't involve collecting intelligence on foreigners that are outside of the United States of America.
Fine. Director Patel, a question for you.
It doesn't answer the
2023,
question.
Your predecessor testified that, and I quote, "To my knowledge, we do not currently purchase commercial database information that includes location data derived from internet advertising." Is that the case still? And if so, can you commit this morning to not buying Americans' location data?
Thank you. The FBI uses all tools, Senator, thank you for the question, to do our mission. We do purchase commercially available information that's consistent with the Constitution and the laws under the Electronic Communications Privacy Act, and it has led to some valuable intelligence for us to be utilized with our private and partner sectors.
So you're saying that the agency will buy Americans' location data?
He's saying that they do.
I believe that
Yeah.
that's what you've said in kind of intelligence lingo, and I just want to say, as we start this debate, doing that without a warrant is an outrageous end run around the Fourth Amendment. It's particularly dangerous given the use of artificial intelligence to comb through massive amounts of private information. This is Exhibit A for why Congress needs to pass our bipartisan, bicameral bill, the Government Surveillance Reform Act. I have time, I believe, for one more question. Director Patel, you 3 weeks ago indicated you were dissatisfied about having your phone records subpoenaed. Do you think the government ought to get a court order to collect phone records?
Senator, in my experience, the government does get court orders to obtain phone records.
One last question. General Adams, for you, in 2021, your agency confirmed that it had purchased and searched domestic location data. It is still your agency's position that you can buy Americans' location data without a warrant? And if so, are you still doing it?
Senator, thanks for the question. With regards to commercially available information and publicly available information, the purchases that my agency makes is in alignment with the Constitution and protects U.S. persons' information.
Apparently not. Apparently not. I didn't know this. Did you all know this? I didn't know this. I didn't know they're buying our data. It's only publicly available if you buy it. So they're counting on a loophole. Hey, you chuds. They're counting on a loophole in that it's commercially available so they can spy on you. How do you feel about that now? How do you feel about that now? Because you think they're just spying on me? On the Democracy Dino? How do you feel about that? Because I know Wyden isn't getting there fast enough, but let me translate for you. These shitheads are spying on you without a warrant, and they're using a loophole to get out of it. That's what you voted for. Good job, everybody.
Buying location data, correct? I mean, we've now had that referred to twice, and I don't think there's any question that you're doing it.
All of the purchasing of commercially available information by the agency is passed through legal channels and is in complete compliance with laws.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
General Hartman, I want to give you a chance to
Your
answer.
fucking DOJ is being held in contempt of court because you bypass the laws. Okay? You have cases in appeal because you were told by courts that your actions as a regime were illegal. So save it, General. You fucking failure. you disgrace to the uniform. Fuck you.
More specifically, what
Have
Senator
some
Wyden said,
fucking
you did
spine.
answer it indirectly. Does anything in Section 702 give the government the authority to target any American with a cable box or a Wi-Fi router?
Chairman, nothing in 702 gives us the authority to target an American with a cable router or Wi-Fi device.
Thank you. And I would observe about commercially available data that the keywords are commercially available. If any other person can buy it and the FBI can buy it and it helps them locate a depraved child molester.
Oh, really? Okay. Child molester? There's one sitting in the motherfucking Oval Office, Josh Hawley. Josh Cotton, Tom Hawley. Oh my fucking God.
Or savage cartel leader, I would certainly hope the FBI is doing anything they can to keep Americans safe. It's not much different from longstanding Supreme Court precedent that, for instance, says law enforcement can go through trash that you put on the side of the curb because you no longer have a privacy interest in it. Senator Cornyn.
Thank you all for your service to our country and the people you represent. We are in debt to all of you.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
I want to ask you, Director Ratcliffe, yesterday, the head of the National Counterterrorism Center resigned, saying that Iran did not represent an imminent threat.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. But you know what? Let's talk about you, Corny Cornyn. Hey, Corny Cornyn, why can't you even get the credibly accused child rapist to support you? Hey, Corny Cornyn, how come you can't even get a fucking supposed child rapist to support you and endorse you? Are you licking his balls enough yet? Do you want to dance a little more for him? Because your pedo president wants you to dance a little more, Corny. You gonna do it? You gonna dance like a motherfucker? You gonna dance like the pedo simp that you are?
Threat to the United States. Is there anything to indicate that Iran had ceased in its nuclear ambitions or in its desire to continue to build ballistic missiles capable of threatening American troops and allies in the Middle East?
Senator, no. In fact, the intelligence reflects the contrary.
So you disagree?
I'm just going to say this really clearly, just for myself. I don't believe that the people who are enlisted in the government are responsible for the policies and the actions of this regime. I wish for the members of the military to identify when and where they are able to exercise their conscientious objection or their ability to influence things to the more positive. But I will not demonize members of the military who are not in leadership at the levels that we're talking about. So that's just my thing. I have a lot of respect for people. There is also the poverty draft. There is all kinds of issues. And my father served. He was not a hero. He said, I'm not a hero, but he spent almost a year in a German prison camp in World War II. And my uncle died in the Doolittle raid. So I understand war. I understand peace. And I will not demonize members of the military and those who have chosen to serve and put their lives on the line for other people, regardless of country or others. So that's just the way I want to say it. And I would like, I just want to kind of put that out there that I don't disrespect the members of the military that are not in this. Anyway, that's my thing. So just so you know.
Mr. Kent.
I do.
Yes, let's talk about Joe Kent.
Fair-minded assessment of the situation, even based on open sources, would reflect the danger
Joe
Iran
Kent is no
posed the
hero.
regime.
Joe Kent is no hero. Don't get it twisted. Don't believe the hype. We'll talk about Joe Kent.
Poses to the United
Corny
States.
had a run-in.
Isn't it true they've basically been at war with the West since 1979 during the Iranian Revolution and have American blood on their hands?
That's absolutely correct. I think Iran has been a constant threat to the United States for an extended period of time and posed an immediate threat at this time.
The threat assessment.
Oh, John Ratcliffe had kind of a little attitude on that one. Yeah, sure. Iran posed a threat. This, yeah, is immediate. Moving on. Oh, okay, John.
Says that
You
Al
sound so
Qaeda and ISIS
convinced.
maintain the intent to launch operations targeting the U.S., but it's most likely to occur through U.S.-based lone offenders. I want to ask you, Director Patel, it seems like there's been a raft of incidents recently. On March the 1st in Austin, Texas, where I live, a lone gunman wearing a sweatshirt saying property of Allah, and who the T-shirt he wore underneath had an Iranian flag, killed 3 innocent people. And
Wait, so he had double shirts on that told you what he thought, so you were able to make an assessment on someone's complete motivation, psychology, and otherwise by the T-shirts that they're wearing? That's now evidence? Okay. So I'm wearing Free Palestine. Am I part of Hamas? Do you worry about that? I don't know. Interesting. Okay. I mean, I don't like murder. I don't want anyone to murder, but I also don't want to reduce someone to the T-shirts that they wear.
injured 12 more.
Yeah.
And then we know in Virginia, the Old Dominion shooting, somebody who unbelievably was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison for attempting to support ISIS, but then was released only to commit another terrorist attack. We all are familiar with what's happened in Michigan, in New York, and
yeah, that's true.
The
yeah, I'm with the
important role
stupid shooter.
that the
Yeah,
FBI has played
that's true.
in
Don't wear
stopping
that shirt.
some terrorist attacks, but obviously the FBI can't be everywhere all the time. Would you please talk about your cooperation and collaboration with Homeland Security investigations in countering terrorist attacks against the United States?
Thank you, Senator. Absolutely. It is essential that the FBI cooperates with the entire interagency. But as to your question about DHS specifically, well, we have stood up around the country.
You are the terrorist,
59
Cash.
Homeland Security task forces in 59 separate locations.
These are joint terrorism task forces?
Essentially, the JTTF model was expanded. So the FBI owns 56 joint terrorism task forces in each of our field offices. On top of that, we have 59 HSTFs, which are co-led by the FBI and DHS. And what that allows us to do is things like we did down in New Orleans just over the holiday period, where we surged for a 6-week period of time, and where we dropped the murder rate by double-digit points. And also, it was the first time that Mardi Gras in its entire history had not one homicide.
He loves
so when
his
you bring
raw
the
numbers.
powers of the Homeland Security folks, DHS, and the FBI
Isolated
together,
numbers
this is the
are
purpose
really
of it,
great
to get
data,
after not just
not-
the terrorism threat, but the violence and the criminal activity in our cities. And that's why we're in 59 cities across the country, and it's working in places.
I want to see exactly what was it. I want exact details on what was the surge. What does surge mean, right? What does that mean? Are FBI agents with sunglasses walking the streets of New Orleans? I mean, what are we talking about? Like, are they like Batman? So that's why the murder rate's going down, because they're flying between buildings in the French Quarter, right? And jumping on guys with, masks on that have like striped shirts, like the old time criminals, right? When they would show them in cartoons. Why I oughta. Is that what it is? Yeah, it sounds like a lot of wasted money to me. But it also sounds like a whole ton of bullshit without any detail that's relevant. Oh my God. Yeah. Surge is the higher alcohol by volume White Claw. There you go. Thank you. We just had a bunch of surges in New Orleans. That's what he means, Josh. Thank you.
This is like Memphis.
Yeah,
and
he
every
always
other city we
oleos
have.
like he's coming
Are
off
you
a
aware
rough
of the
night.
fact that Homeland Security Investigation is a major directorate within Immigration and Customs
It wasn't a
Enforcement?
homicide. It was a manslaughter.
Yes, sir.
And are you aware that Senate Democrats have uniformly voted not to fund the Department of Homeland Security, including Homeland Security investigations, TSA.
That we witnessed in Washington, D.C., where an individual from Afghanistan was allowed to enter
Shut
into
the
our
fuck
country
up.
and shot multiple members of our uniformed military
Yeah,
service.
and killed one. Why didn't you stop it?
As separately. So
Fucker.
inexplicably
Fuck you,
to me,
Cornyn.
that
Go
bill
fucking
was
suck his
blocked,
dick.
by my Republican colleagues. It would have, as I say, fully funded TSA, FEMA, says a Coast Guard, and then focused the attention on the situation with ICE. So I just want to be clear on who's blocking funding for those 4 agencies. I'd like to ask Ms. Gabbard and Director Ratcliffe, Director, both of you, were either of you in the room or your designees when the president was making the final decision about taking this action against Iran on February 27th, 28th? Was there an intelligence committee, community present in those deliberations? Mr. Ratcliffe,
Yeah, that's a Gal Suburban
response?
special.
Senator King, I'm probably in dozens and dozens of briefings with the president. I don't know if there was a single meeting where there was a single time where a decision was made.
Were those dozens of meetings right during the lead up to this war? I know you've met many times, but I'm talking about it in the 2 weeks or so before the decision to go into Iran was made.
Again, countless meetings with the president.
During that period?
During that
Can you
period.
try to count them?
Director Gabbard, were you present in those discussions?
Likewise, yes.
The reason I'm asking the question is there seems to be a discrepancy between what the Intelligence Community has reported over the years and what the president has said in terms of of this action. For example, Senator Wyden read the report from a year ago that strikes against neighboring states and action to close the Strait of Hormuz was predicted by the intelligence community. And yet the president says nobody knew. And my question is, did you tell him? Anybody want to answer that question?
Senator, I'll answer the question. So with regard to briefings, the president gets briefings constantly about intelligence. Now, the comments that you talked about, I had not heard, but what I can tell you is that Iran had specific plans to hit U.S. interests in energy sites across the region, and that's why the Department of War and the Department of State took measures for force protection and personnel protection in advance of Operation Epic Fury. I think that's what's most important.
Any predictions to the president about the Strait of Hormuz? All you got to do is look at a map, and you'll see that the vulnerability of the Strait of Hormuz. Was that part of the briefing, Director Gabbard?
I think the Director Ratcliffe made the point here is that this has long been an assessment of the IC, that Iran would likely hold the Strait of Hormuz as leverage.
And my question is, was that communicated to
Was
the
it
president?
communicated?
And it's because of that longstanding assessment that the IC has continued to report that the Department of War took the preemptive planning measures that it did.
Oh.
Well,
So now what we're saying is it doesn't matter if we told him or not, or that he lied or whatever he's doing, or he's just stupid. You know, like it's either he's as stupid as we think he is, or you never told him, or you never briefed him, or he hasn't made any of the decisions about this war. There's a bunch of different scenarios that can emerge from this. But the bottom line is this, is that they're not admitting just to the fact that they either told him of these specific potential issues, and he is now saying that no one told him about these specific issues. So somebody is lying. And it's a little hard to trust your intelligence community if there's a chance that they're lying. What?
stated that they did not plan for the Strait of Hormuz. The president
Jesus
said,
Christ.
who knew that was going to happen? Anyway, let's move on. Does the president take a daily brief from the intelligence community?
No, let's not move on.
This is a yes or no question, I think.
Yeah, the president, I would say, Senator, in my estimation, on average, I briefed the President of the United States on intelligence probably on average 10 to 15 times a week, where I have conversations with him about specific discrete issues. Sometimes there are dedicated sessions that last hours in length. Sometimes I'm briefing him on specific issues, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day. But I would say on average, my interactions where I'm briefing the president on important national security matters happens probably on average 10 to 15 times per week.
Thank you. Could you update us on the intelligence on Russian intelligence sharing with Iran in the current conflict? What do we know?
Senator, if there is that sharing going on, that would be an answer that would be appropriate for a closed session.
Well, it's been in the public press. This is open source that it's occurring. Is it occurring?
Again, if it is occurring, that would be an answer appropriate for a closed session. What I can tell you is that according to the Department of War, any support that Iran may be receiving is not inhibiting their operational effects.
Okay, that's sort of the first cousin of a yes, I guess. According to intelligence analysis, can regime change or the elimination of the estimated 1,000 pounds of highly enriched uranium be accomplished without boots on the ground?
Senator, the discussion about the Iranian nuclear capability, we intend in the closed session to talk about that in great deal. With regards to revealing any information about the ability to do that, I would have to defer that to a closed session.
Okay, I'll see you in an hour. Finally, there was very little, if anything, in the report, in the assessment about climate change, and that's been in past reports. There is a lot of discussion about migration. The estimates are that climate migrants, because of the changes in the climate and the atmosphere, and particularly in the center equatorial area of the Earth, will range from 200 million to 1 billion people by 2050. Do you believe that is a national security threat that should be addressed? The Syrian refugees were about 6 million, and they upset the politics of Europe for several years. We're talking about 200 million to 1 billion people on the move. I believe that's something we should be discussing and that the intelligence community should be assessing. Director Gabbard?
Yes, Senator, there are a number of drivers of things like migration. It would be an extensive and voluminous annual threat assessment if we included every single one. This annual threat assessment is focused, again, on the priorities laid out by the President's national security strategy and on the effects that we can take action, operational action, to protect U.S. interests.
Well, I would suggest combating climate change is something we can take action on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
On the matter of media reports about Russian or Chinese collaboration with Iran, I would point out that the media is not a classification authority. And that kind of story, whether true or not, might be better suited for the FBI to investigate on whether there's been unlawful disclosures of classified information. I would also say it sounds like something Russia and China would do. Communist Russia used to do it during the Cold War, and Communist China has always done stuff like that. On the Patty Murray legislation, not only would it have defunded ICE and CBP, it would also defunded Homeland Security investigations, which do critical work on our streets to protect our communities from financial crimes, from predators, from transnational gangs as well. So while we would all like to see the TSA and the Coast Guard and other critical parts of Homeland Security as well, we do not want to defund the police, this time the immigration police.
Nobody said that.
Chairman, thank you. I believe
Yes,
that it's
they're
in
not
the
real
U.S.
police.
as national interest, our security interest, for Ukraine to be successful in defeating the Russian invasion. I'm concerned with the consequences of Operation Epic Fury on that ability of Ukraine to succeed in defending its borders. And General Adams, in broad terms, not necessarily, not classified terms, what are the consequences to the supply chain, to the capability of the United States to supply NATO allies and Ukraine as a result of Operation Epic Fury? My question is that usual problem of how do we do both? Are we doing both? Is U.S. support maintained or diminished for Ukraine as a result of Epic Fury?
Oh, are we supporting them? I didn't think we were.
Senator, thank you for that question, and we do continue to, beyond Epic Fury,
They're helping us.
observe what is happening across the world in crises like Russia and Ukraine. Unfortunately for the situation there now, just based on the force composition and the delta between the Russian forces and the Ukrainian forces, the advantage is to the Russians. As we get into the classified hearing, we can talk a little more specifically about the items with regards to supply chain and with regards to the information that the Defense Intelligence Agency collects. We look at the foreign threat and what their capabilities are from a multi-int perspective. We look a little bit less at friendly capabilities. And I would defer questions with regards to U.S. supply chain limitations with regards to logistics and the effort that the Secretary of War is having with regards to trying to boost the U.S. Defense Industrial Base. I would defer those to
just
the
to submit a
department,
request
to
and we'll add
discuss.
you to the signal group.
Well, General, please be prepared for the classified session for me to continue to pursue this. I mean, our supply chain issues are not classified in the sense that every hearing I'm in as a defense appropriator has officials from the Department of Defense testifying about the need for further assistance. And really, I'm asking for the facts of what has happened as a result of Operation Fury, Epic Fury, in the last few weeks in our supply to Ukraine and our NATO allies who are supplying Ukraine.
I would just keep calling it Epic Furry, just as kind of a low-key drag of the witnesses. I'd be like, so again, in Epic Fury, ma'am. No, I said that. Didn't I say that? Epic Furry. Epic Furry? I'm saying it right? Epic Furry. Anyway, again, in Epic Furry.
Yes, sir. The department is
Just to be a
executing
dick.
comprehensive. In fact, the Sec War has gone around the nation to boost the defense industrial base. We know for a fact that we have to increase our defense industrial base capability. Its impact based on the munitions expended during Epic Fury will be an impact, but we need to boost it. The efforts are underway to boost it, and
Well, I'm interested in helping accomplish that.
Do we have the Defense Production Act in place, or do we not? Is there a Defense Production Act, or is there not? Yeah, and Cash, did you find Nancy Guthrie in Milan? Because that's where you went. Instead of going to look for Nancy Guthrie, God bless her memory. I'm so sorry about them not being able to find your mother. Disgusting. But she wasn't in Milan, was she? Was she at the bottom of that beer glass? Cash?
Goal, Director Ratcliffe, perhaps along the same line. I assume let me first of all compliment you on your public service. I appreciate you. And that's not my usual town hall meeting when I get a compliment from somebody who then follows it with a but. I am interested in being of help, and in regard to your conversations in preparation for Epic Fury, I'd be interested in knowing if the consequences to our abilities to defend the United States against Russia or China or other adversaries was taken into account. How was that diminished or increased by Operation Epic Fury? And particularly in this instance about what it means, was the conversation had about what it means to our ability to help Ukraine defend itself. U.S. support for Ukraine includes military and other assistance, but also we've undertaken economic sanctions against Russia for their invasion of Ukraine. And epic fury has caused a significant increase in oil prices, and the administration has waived sanctions against Russian oil companies, which are reported to say that Russia is receiving $150 million per day additional dollars as a result of the waiver. What can you tell me about our plans or your understanding of what's transpiring as a result of Operation Epic Fury in regard to those oil revenues that are now being generated in favor of Russia and the lifting of the sanctions, at least for a temporary period of time?
Senator, thanks for the compliment, I think. I'll start with a couple things. What I would tell you is the same military and intelligence professionals who delivered, not just for the administration, but for the American people, a flawless intelligence picture and flawless military operations in Operation Midnight Hammer and Operation Absolute Resolve are the same folks involved with Operation Epic Fury.
Oh, whoa, John, that is not the flex that you think it is, sweetie. Okay, okay. Operation Midnight Hammer was a big fucking waste of money because it didn't get rid of fuck all. They moved the uranium before, so there wasn't anything flawless about it. I know, this is what you guys do. You just speak it as if it's going to come into existence. That everything you do is legal and everything you do is flawless and everything you do is for the American people, when in fact, none of that is true. But you know what? Lie until you can't lie anymore, right, John? John, I'm going to be putting you in Nuremberg 2.0 because actually you're just like one of those kind of, what are those? The dark horses? The dark horses of this regime, because you've been around since the beginning, bitch. You've been creating problems for a while now. So get ready, sunshine. You're going to Germany.
And so I hope that provides you some measure of comfort with regard to how detailed, how thoughtful the approach was to the current operation. And that's why I think that to mischaracterize it as it is being done in the media is a disservice to the folks involved in what is
you know what's
very
a disservice?
Campaign.
You know what's a disservice? You know what's a real disservice, John? Let me tell you what a real disservice is. Bitching at the Biden administration for the pullout of Afghanistan, which you and Mike Pompous ass and other people in the administration are the ones who negotiated so that there was maximum chance for failure. That's the Doha Agreement. Yeah, we'll get real specific here, John. So number one, there's that. And those 13 deaths are on your head, my friend, not the Biden administration, if you want to kind of keep a count. And then here's the other thing. Oh, let's see. How many people have been reported as killed during this made-up war, this wag the dog that we have for a child rapist to gain cover? Oh, that's right. It's 13. Oh, my goodness. Isn't that the same number of individuals who were killed during your botched withdrawal from Afghanistan? And what? What, John? More to come? More to come? Is it flawless for those families? Is it flawless for those families? Sit the fuck down, mister. You are one of the major globe fuckers on this regime. How dare you insult our intelligence with this? Oh, you're going to burn in hell, Ratcliffe. You're going to burn the motherfucking hell, and it's going to be painful, and I will dance on your grave.
That is different than the two that I mentioned before. It's why the president came out and said, this isn't over in a matter of hours. This is a 4 to 6 week campaign, and that it would come at some cost because the goal of the president and the administration.
Who's paying the cost, John? Who's paying the cost? The Iranian school children? The Iranian people in their homes being bombarded? The people who have to now take, for somebody's non-war, for someone who raped children, to hide that fact and then send my daughter or my son to be killed because he doesn't want to go to jail for raping children. What? Because that's what's really happening here.
Is to address a 47-year problem, the most destabilizing force in the Middle East for the last 47 years.
We're the most
One that has
destabilizing
frankly,
force in the Middle East.
Been watered, fed, and nurtured by policies of prior administrations that has allowed them to become the threat that they have. So I say all of that sort of in context to understanding that we have to address that, but at the same time, to your point on what's going on with regard to Russia and Ukraine, and you mentioned the oil issue. Sometimes policymakers have to take steps that, while they may benefit adversaries like Russia or China, do so because they also think it will benefit U.S. citizens, in this case with respect to keeping the economy on track and keeping oil prices low. So what I can tell you is...
Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa. Tell me again how allowing Russian shipments of oil or natural gas or whatever's on those ships to go to, I think, mostly India, or I don't think they're going to China. I think they're going to India. Tell me how that makes our lives better. Because we're not getting the fuel. So, Mr. America First, can you explain to me why allowing Russian ships that are taking natural resources to other countries really, yeah, exactly. China buys a significant amount. India buys a significant amount, from Russia. So, I'm sorry. Tell me again how we are supposed to care. I'm making a point here, so just stay with me. Why are we supposed to care from an America First perspective if that Russian oil gets to its destination? How's that keep prices down? How does that keep prices down? Oh, really? Barron has really? Is Barron not, has he got bone spurs? Well, I mean, they might be hereditary. You know.
The intelligence is thoughtfully considered, and I think that policymakers have taken that, and I'm confident that we can walk and chew gum at the same time, pursue objectives in the Middle East, and provide support with regard to the conflict in Russia and the Russian aggression in Ukraine.
Senator Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. Mr. Director Ratcliffe, you just described the specific campaign that the president is engaged in, the country's engaged in with respect to Iran. I think that the campaign has been one, in my view, without a specific rationale for the American people. 19 days into President Trump's unauthorized war with Iran, and by which I mean there has been no congressional approval, at least 13 American service members are dead and many others are injured. Yet President Trump has offered no credible justification for an imminent threat, no clear goals, no strategy or timeline. His message keeps changing, I think, in really damaging ways. President Trump said Iran's nuclear facilities had been, quote, totally obliterated in June 2025. But when he launched this latest war, he said we need to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat of those totally obliterated nuclear facilities. President Trump has threatened to seize Iranian oil and demanded our allies reopen the Strait of Hormuz. He said that I'm demanding that these countries come in and protect their own territory because it's their territory. It's the place from which they get their energy. By the way, he wasn't just asking for our allies to protect or to bail them out in the Straits of Hormuz. He was asking China to bail them out in the Straits of Hormuz. And then he said, maybe we shouldn't even be here at all because we don't need it. We have a lot of oil. And he said, we do not need the help of anyone. President Trump has declared we've won the war. We won it in the first hour. But then he said, we're not leaving until the job is finished. He said that there is practically nothing left to bomb, but then threatened to bomb Iran again, quote, just for fun. I think words that probably have never come out of a military leader in the history of the United States of America. It shouldn't come out of the mouth of a civilian leader. President Trump said he will end the war when I feel it in my bones. And any time I want to end it, it will end. But, Director, the war is not ending. It is escalating with thousands of U.S. Marines reportedly sailing toward Iran on an unclear mission, a mission that's become less clear over days, not more clear. Our airstrikes wiped out Iran's missiles and supreme leader. Nobody here, and certainly me, is shedding a tear for him. But the Iranian people now live under martial law. And by the way, no surprise to our intelligence agencies that that's the case. And the first of a puppet leader who's chosen by the IRGC. No surprise that to anybody on the Intelligence Committee. Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz and is holding the global economy hostage. No surprise to anybody who knows anything about U.S. intelligence. Launching drones at our embassies and military bases. No surprise. The president is surprised. Nobody who has looked at our intelligence is surprised. Iran's nuclear program is damaged, to be sure, but it still has a uranium stockpile. We heard today from the DNI at the very beginning of this conversation that the regime is in place and they are going to rebuild their military capabilities, the ones that we are destroying right now. The question I think is raised, Director, about your specific engagement is whether it will become a perpetual war because what Iran will do is exactly what they have always done, and which the DNI is saying they will do again. In its briefings to the committee, the Intelligence Committee
why are
has
we
been
doing this?
clear-eyed
We're just
about
gonna have to do
what
it
would
again?
happen in the Straits of Hormuz, has been clear-eyed about whether or not our military bases, our embassies, and our personnel in the region would be placed at risk and in harm's way, even though the administration did very little to protect them. I know, Director Radcliffe, that you warned President Trump that if Israel assassinated the supreme leader, the IRGC would replace him with potentially a harder line puppet. In fact, I think what was clear is that the likelihood was that it would be a hard line puppet. Do you disagree with that characterization of the intelligence?
To that specific question, what we knew was, first of all, I guess I have to address up front, so much of what you related in there, the difference between political rhetoric versus...
Not political rhetoric. I'm quoting the President of the United States.
Political rhetoric versus military...
Director, I'll ask
the difference
you
between that and military and intelligence execution, but here's the most
Don't let him
important
do
thing.
it.
You mischaracterized this
What
as
the
saying there aren't
fuck?
clearly defined goals. The defined goals are very clear. Degrade and destroy the missile inventory and drone inventory,
We've done
delay and degrade
Grow
the
a
military
pair.
industrial base and factories that produce
Bennett.
that, degrade and destroy the IRGC Navy that could control the
Reclaim your
Strait.
time.
These are all
God
defined
damn it.
goals that were set out specifically.
They're Nazis.
The premise of the question is
my
that
time back, Mr.
I can't do this. We don't deserve this country. There's a reason that we're at the 250th year of this experiment, because it failed. Because we failed. Because we didn't even have the wherewithal to stand up to disinformation We didn't do anything. We let racism and bigotry run rampant for centuries in this country. We did fuck all to protect that. When they ripped up the civil rights movement in front of our eyes in January 2025 with the elimination of DEI, when they started their campaign of erasure for trans people and access to health care for women so that they could die in parking lots trying to get life-saving abortion health care. Tell me where we deserve the opportunity to have this freedom that we think is just so fucking precious, when we're not willing to stand up when freedom is systemically just withheld from certain people because we're not sure. I'm so glad my dad is dead. I'm so glad he's not here to see this part of history. Because he came home a peace activist from World War II. And that's how he raised us. And to see now what a joke it's become, and the fact that when the red lines were drawn, we didn't do anything. And I count myself in that too. So I can't really feel that we deserve this experiment. And granted, of course, it's going to persist and we'll figure out what the next. But meanwhile, birthing people are still dying in parking lots. Trans people in Kansas don't have valid licenses because the state took away their license and their identities. California hospitals won't provide gender-affirming care for children because they're scared, even though they know the science is there. So tell me where we deserve such a gift as freedom and such a, I mean, I know who deserves it. I know there's people here who deserve it. But what have we done for those people? Except for oppress them and just keep letting this happen. The fact that disinformation was allowed to get this far is just mind-blowing to me. It's just mind-blowing that we let it get this far. And we're doing nothing about it. We're still not going to stop it. We're still not going to stop it. There's nothing we're going to do. We're not going to do anything. Even when we had the chance for 3 years, for 3 solid years under Biden administration, even when we had the chance to do something about it, we didn't have the fucking balls to do it. Because we were too busy protecting the institution of billionaires and corporations and decorum, which I'm all for decorum as long as you're actually getting, starting off on a kind of genuine footing. But this is dumb. This is dumb.
Chairman, I can't get a word in edgewise. He won't answer the question, and then he's taking a minute of my time.
You're both big boys. You can handle it yourself.
Okay, well, Director, I agree that you are, and I appreciate what you're saying. And I'm not, my point is not what your characterization of the war is. My point is what the characterization, the Commander
about
in
regime
Chief.
change?
I'm not asking you anymore, Mr. Director. I'm sorry because I'm out of time because of how you use the time. The complete lack of clarity should matter to everybody. President Trump, most of all, he is the person that got elected on the criticism that we had fought 2 wars in the Middle East that had lasted for 20 years. And now we're hearing the testimony is to get their ballistic missiles, to not even get to the nuclear stuff, we're going to have to be in a perpetual war with Iran. And I don't think that's where the American people are on this. This is a serious threat. This is a serious threat to us and to Israel. The question is how to handle it. And President Trump said, we are not the policemen of the world. He ran on that. And now he's turned us into the world's policeman, into its jury, into its judge, into its executioner. And just because we have the most advanced military in the world,
Senator
it doesn't mean
Times has
that we should be in a perpetual
Bennett,
war
your time has
all around
expired.
the world. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Rounds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to maybe follow up a little bit this same line of questioning, but I want to do it in a little bit different manner. I've had the opportunity, like all of the other members on this committee, to see the threats that we discuss regularly in the classified settings. I also, sitting on the Armed Services Committee, have the opportunity to see what our capabilities are and what we have to do in order to respond to those threats. Director Ratcliffe, let me just begin. I think it's been very clear from the beginning that even though there were supposedly diplomatic activities going on, behind the scenes it was very clear, and I just ask if you would disagree or agree with me on this, it was very clear that Iran, while they were talking, they had no intentions of following through diplomatic
and oil revenue due to allies. And in here today to all of our witnesses. So for more than a decade, the United States has tried to make a pivot to Asia in its national defense strategy in order to confront significant threats from China. For years, administrations of both parties have identified China as a top threat facing our country and worked to build relationships across Asia and deter Chinese aggression. At the same time, we have bolstered our European allies and asked them to contribute more to their defense to deter Russia. Directors Gabbard and Ratcliffe, would you agree that China and Russia are our primary geopolitical rivals? Director Gabbard.
Yes, they are our primary strategic competitors.
Thank you. Director Ratcliffe?
I would agree with that, although I don't think they're equal in terms of the threats that they pose.
Thank you. So that brings us to the war with Iran. So this has created one of the largest ever supply shocks to the global oil supply, which has sent gas prices skyrocketing for Americans. But not everybody is losing. Directors Gabbard and Ratcliffe, is it accurate that Russia has gained billions of dollars in additional oil revenue due to price spikes as a result of the war and loosened sanctions? Director Gabbard.
That is what has been reported. I'd defer to the Director of Secretary of Treasury and Energy on that front for details.
Director Ratcliffe.
Yeah, I'm not an economist, not going to try and do those calculations. But as I talked about earlier, sometimes there are decisions made that will benefit adversaries at the same time policymakers think that it will benefit the American people.
It's clear, I think we'd all agree that sanctions were loosened, and that means more money into the coffers of Vladimir Putin. Would you agree that if he has more funding, he is likely to put that to his war effort against Ukraine? Director Gabbard.
I would defer to an actual intelligence assessment on what they would believe his intentions are.
Director Ratcliffe?
Yeah, I wouldn't speculate on that.
Wouldn't speculate? Okay. Okay. And is it accurate that China is continuing to receive preferential oil flows from Iran despite the conflict as Iran allows its own tankers to transit the strait? Director Gabbard? I'm going to go back and forth between the two of you.
There has been some reporting of China, India, and other countries being able to move their tankers through the strait. However, it is unclear the volume or the measure of that.
Okay, so it sounds like it's accurate. Thank you. I'm going to move on. Director Gabbard, you tweeted yesterday that President Trump concluded there was an imminent threat and made a decision to attack Iran after carefully reviewing all of the information before him. I think the country deserves to know what the information was. I'm going to ask a series of questions and just want a yes or no. We don't need any explanation, just yes or no, starting with, were you asked, I'm not asking if you did brief this, were you asked to brief on whether Iran would close the Strait of Hormuz?
I'm not going to comment on what the president did or didn't ask me on any topic.
I'm not asking if you briefed it. I'm just asking if there was a request
I understand
by the White House. Director Ratcliffe, were you asked to brief on whether Iran would close the Strait of Hormuz?
The briefings to the president and the White House typically don't come at the request of the White House. So typically when we get intelligence that we want the president to be aware of, the intelligence community brings that to the president.
Did you produce the analysis for the Straits of Hormuz?
There has been and continues to be analysis with respect to that.
Were you asked to brief on how our adversaries and allies would respond to the war in Iran? I imagine I'll get the same answer. So it's just to point out here, it's challenging to forget about actually what was in the brief for a second. We're having a hard time finding out not only if you briefed the president on something, but even if the White House asked if they could be briefed on something or if analysis was produced. So I just want to point out here, this is about 6 days.
Can I comment on
Yes.
that?
Yes.
I go back to the point. It's the same approach that we took to the prior operations, which to your credit, Senator, you have praised the intelligence and military communities in Operation Midnight Hammer and Operation Absolute Resolve. It's the same approach and the same professionals in terms of how they approached this particular operation.
We're trying to figure out if the president knew what the downside was of the Strait of Hormuz being closed. And I'm having a hard time finding out whether the White House asked or whether there was a brief.
The Kevin Hassett stuff has been so horrid.
Did he know this was going to happen, or did he just disregard it? And I just want to point out something that was released about 6 days ago. This is a fundraising email from the president of the United States. And in this email here, where there's multiple links to donate money, it says, as a national security briefing member, you'll receive my private national security briefings. Director Gabbard or Director Ratcliffe, do you think the public should be able to, supporters of the president should be able to pay and receive his private national security briefings? I assume these are briefings, Director Ratcliffe, that you provide to the president that is now going to be provided to somebody who makes a
regardless
donation.
of what that I don't know what that document is, but regardless of what it says, it didn't happen.
Oh, no, this is new.
But what I'm telling you is that the Hatch Act would prevent me from an apolitical role from engaging in that. I'm not aware that anything like that happened.
Yeah, this says unfiltered updates. So, Director Gabbard, do you have any comment on whether unfiltered updates of private national security briefings should be made to individuals that donate to the president?
I'm not familiar with that document, and
It's been made very public 6 days ago. We'll get you a copy here because I agree with you, Director Ratcliffe, that the Hatch Act should prohibit this type of conduct. Thank you.
Senator Lankford joins us from what I gather is a very exciting confirmation hearing for Senator Mullen.
It is, actually. For all of you, thank you. Thank you for the time that you give to the country
Fuck
to be able
off,
to serve,
Tom
for
Hawley.
your families and the sacrifice that you make to be able to do this, and all the professionals that work around you. Please pass
Yeah,
on our
Kelly
gratitude
should
to
have.
them because they work
I think
incredibly
Kelly
hard
should have
and
been
difficult
prepared a
tasks
little
in this.
more.
I want to talk about something that's a little closer to home on this. A lot of Oklahomans that I talk to, and quite frankly, folks even outside the state on it, when they think about threats, they, as strange as this may sound to those of us that deal with missiles and ballistics, they think about the threat to their family and to their income and to who they are. And a lot of it is international scammers that are now reaching into the United States to be
kidding
able to
me?
gather data or to be able to steal money from
Are you
them.
kidding me?
AI has accelerated this dramatically, and I know the Worldwide Threats has mentioned this and some of the challenges that we face on it. But the challenge is getting bigger. FBI had noted that in 2024,
Ayatollah and his wife.
In the 4 years of the prior administration combined. So hopefully it gives you some measure of comfort about how we're approaching things and the effectiveness that we've had in the last year in that regard. And I look forward to
if
getting
anyone
into
can
detail
get
in
through,
the
it's the
classified
Greeks.
portion.
I was just watching.
Thank you.
Senator
I
Reid.
was just watching Bloomberg the other day when they, released oil prices and they were talking about it like in the middle of the night, and they had one of the Greek shipping guys on, and it was really funny because they really are the experts when it comes to that. They have such a significant industry in terms of shipping. Isn't that interesting? I mean, that really probably comes from time immemorial. I think that's so cool. I don't know why. It's just kind of nerdy history thing. Seems cool.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. The Washington Post reported earlier this week, in their words, the U.S. intelligence assessments say Iran's regime likely will remain in place for now, weakened but more hardline, with the powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps security forces exerting greater control. Director Gabbard, do you stand by that reported intelligence community assessment?
I don't stand by any leaked so-called intelligence to the media. I do stand by the intelligence community's assessment that was included in the annual threat assessment that speaks directly to this issue, that as of this moment, the regime maintains power within Iran, even though they are vastly degraded on almost every front.
Do you think that the killing of the Ayatollah and his wife and other family members and key people contributed to the picking of a hardline successor?
Senator, the intelligence community's assessment has pointed to a number of different scenarios that went into play with the selection of the successor. The details of that we can discuss in a closed hearing with regard to the intelligence reporting.
Is the regime in Iran now trying to promote the deceased Ayatollah as a martyr who should be followed, and does that help them consolidate support?
Senator, the Iranians are certainly using that as a call to action. The effects of that
nobody
from
has
an
asked about
intelligence
Jared.
Standpoint,
Nobody.
remain to be
I
seen.
thought they were going to.
There is a
I thought
tradition in
Angus
Shia,
King.
though, to honor.
I thought Angus King was going to, but he didn't. And I'm in a grumpy mood, so there's that. All right. I'm sorry. I'm in a grumpy mood. It's a long story and I don't want to talk about it. But anyway, my point is that we need to please elect younger people. Okay? This guy's great. He's got good, ethics, blah, blah, blah. First of all, I have no idea why this is his line of questioning with all of the topics that could be tossed at these folks. Why is this his line of questioning? Whatever. And no, Lee, no one has asked about the fact that there is a rumored whistleblower report that Tulsi Toenail Gabbard has sat on for almost a year that is both complaining about her and complaining about the discussion of an American member of the administration, the White House in particular, by 2 foreign nationals. And that whistleblower report, although reviewed by the OIG at the Director of National Intelligence Office, is still not public, is still not being pushed on by Congress to release. Apparently, they decided that whatever it was about this American member of the administration, who we think is Jared, because that's the rumor too. That's been reported, and I don't know. I can't remember which now. Did it was ProPublica or something like that. But nonetheless, and I'll find it. This is what we should be asking about. There are so many things we could be asking about. Why did the president lie then to the American people about the fact that he did not know that this would happen, that Gulf partners would be bombed, and that the Strait of Hormuz, or the Hormone Straits, which is what he calls them, because apparently there's more than one. So, are you kidding me? Like, come on, guys. You got one fucking mother chance, right? You don't get this chance all the time. And you have a lot of people in this country to educate. A lot of people to help plant seeds of truth and facts and anti-disinformation, to dispel disinformation. Like, this is literally, I mean, and maybe it's the staff briefings that have to change, you know. I'm sure some staff are more complete than others, blah, 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 blah. Some senators are more engaged than others, blah, blah, blah. But that's not, those times are done. We don't have time for that bullshit anymore. Like, we're in a fucking constitutional crisis. We are losing rights, left and right. We are bombing countries. We are threatening countries. We are extorting countries. We are transferring the burden of revenue in this country to the low and middle income population, the 90 some odd %. It's so fucking maddening to me. Navios Maritime Partners. Oh, really? That's cool. Anyway, I just like, it's just like, come on, wake up. You guys are the ones that actually have the role to play here. You have such little, it's so precious. Don't treat it like it's like a job. Like, don't treat, this is your life. People are dying.
Martyrs, one of their greatest celebrations is the martyrdom of
the
grandson of Muhammad. Is that correct?
That's right.
So we might have played into their cultural biases erroneously. General Adams, what conditions do USS would need to be present to make the regime collapse or necessitate, unconditional surrender? And can it be done with air power alone?
Senator, we have at the Defense Intelligence Agency put together a number of scenarios coordinated across the IC with regards to what we would forecast the future would be. There are 4 specific goals that we've been told to track and analyze with regards to the goals of the U.S. effort. They've been articulated earlier in the hearing, so I won't hammer on those. But with regards to the collapse of the regime, specific perpetuation, like what would precipitate that, we would like to, I would prefer to talk about that in the classified hearing.
Well, I understand, but there's a very basic question here. Will air power alone be able to destroy this regime, given the culture, the politics, the temperament of these people? The Iraq-Iran war lasted for 8 years with 1 million casualties. Do you think air power alone will do it?
Senator, the capabilities that our joint force brings to bear can accomplish many missions. To forecast exactly what can and can't accomplish this goal, I prefer not to guess or prognosticate on that.
Well, I'll recognize your professional position. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff recently stated that Russian leaders told Trump in a call that they were not sharing intelligence with Iran. Witkoff said, quote, "We can take them at their word." Director Gabbard and Ratcliffe, do you take President Putin at his word?
I'll go ahead and answer. No, I don't take Vladimir Putin at his word.
Are they providing intelligence to the Iranians?
Well, we talked about this before.
Yes, sir.
In the classified session, what we can go into is that the Iranians are requesting intelligence assistance from Russia, from China, and from other adversaries of the United States, and whether or not those countries is something we can talk about in the classified portion.
But you've made an assessment. You've analyzed traffic communications, and you can.
I know the answer and happy to discuss that with you in the classified portion.
One more thing is that why hasn't anyone asked about the number station and the revival of the number station, which is radio signals that have come from Iran in the past, which were said to communicate globally on a more low-tech level with operatives or whoever, interested parties, I guess, throughout the world, fans, I don't know, like tweeting out to their fandom, but using numbers where it was a encrypted rather, message. So apparently that's got some decent reporting that signal started again, which of course could be a million things. It could be random. It could be a red herring. It could be us, right? It could be the CIA. It could be the Israelis. It could be anybody, frankly. But nobody has asked about the numbers. That's interesting. I don't know. I just find that interesting since it did get some reporting.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thank you. One of the aspects of this is the collateral effects, particularly in Russia and Ukraine. We're just talking about Russia probably or possibly providing intelligence, maybe interfering or inflicting casualties on our forces. Russia is also benefiting from the lifting of sanctions on their ability to sell oil throughout the world. I heard one estimate of a $20 billion surge in their potential revenues. Ukraine, on the other hand, is facing perhaps a disrupted supply chain of missiles and other equipment because they're being devoted to this operation. So, General Adams, can you just give me your impression of the effect of the battle on Russia and Ukraine at the moment, of this battle?
Well, from our collections, the effect of the epic fury on the Russian-Ukrainian battle has been indirect, not direct. We do track very carefully what benefits or, as you alluded to, the collateral effects of what we're doing and how it impacts. There is a lot of, from both the Russians and the Chinese, observations of what we're doing and figuring out what they can learn from that. So I think that's a collateral effect as we expose what the joint force displays on the battlefield. I think we can talk in a little more detail as we move to the classified session, some of the things that we're collecting specifically about what those effects are.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
Ossoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. Before I ask you a few questions, I want to call everyone's attention again to this fundraising email signed by the President that Senator Kelly mentioned earlier, in which the President of the United States invites his campaign donors to, quote, claim your spot, join now to receive private national security briefings, to his political donors, featuring a photo of the President at a dignified transfer ceremony with a flag-draped coffin of an American service member killed in action returning to their family. And the American people need to know that the President of the United States is fundraising for his political campaign and his PAC using images of American service members killed in action, and it's a disgrace. Now, Director Gabbard, I'd like to reground this in your core responsibilities. Under the law, you are responsible for providing national intelligence to the President, correct?
Yes.
And to the heads of executive branch departments and agencies, yes?
Yes.
And to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and senior military commanders?
Across the IC, yes.
And to the Senate and the House and relevant committees, correct?
Yes.
And the law states that the national intelligence you provide to Congress, quote, should be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations, correct?
Yes.
And you noted in your opening statement you're here fulfilling a statutory responsibility and that your testimony, quote, represents the IC's assessment of threats,
That's right.
correct? That opening statement, as submitted to the committee in advance of this hearing, stated that as a result of last summer's airstrikes, quote, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And is that in fact the assessment of the intelligence community?
Yes.
So the assessment of the intelligence community is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated by last summer's airstrikes.
Yes.
In the opening statement you submitted to the committee last night also stated, quote, there has been no effort since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And that's the assessment of the intelligence community.
Yes.
The White House stated on March 1st of this year that this war was launched and was, quote, a military campaign to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, end quote. That's a statement from the White House. Quote, the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime. Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime?
The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment capability.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False.
And
This
he
is the
made that
worldwide. This is the
determination.
worldwide threats hearing where you present to Congress national intelligence, timely, objective, and independent of political considerations. You've stated today that the intelligence community's assessment is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated and that, quote, there had been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay.
That is up to the
Here's
president
the problem.
based on a volume
No,
of
it is
information
precisely
that he receives.
it is precisely your responsibility to determine what constitutes a threat to the United States. This is the worldwide threats hearing where, as you noted in your opening testimony, quote, you represent the IC's assessment of threats. You are here to represent the IC's assessment of threats. That's a quote from your own opening statement. And so my question is, as you're here to present the IC's assessment of threats, was it the assessment of the intelligence community that, as the White House claimed on March 1st, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
Once again, Senator, the intelligence community has provided the inputs that make up this annual threat assessment.
You won't answer the question.
It is the nature of the imminent threat that the president has to make that determination based on a collection and volume
You're here
of
to be
information and
timely.
intelligence that he is provided with.
You're here to be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations.
Exactly what I'm doing.
No, you're evading a question because to provide a candid response to the committee would contradict a statement from the White House. Let me ask you about your presence in Fulton County on January 28th of this year. You were present at the FBI's raid on the Fulton County Elections Office on January 28th, correct?
I was present for part of the FBI exercising a warrant approved by a municipal judge.
Yeah,
Yes, and the FBI was there
Like, wake up.
executing.
This
the
is what
FBI
we're
was
talking
there
about.
executing that warrant to seize ballots and materials associated with the 2020 election, correct?
Yes.
And are you aware that members of this committee have already opened inquiries into your election-related activities?
Yes.
And are you aware that your general counsel and deputy general counsel have already provided testimony to this committee regarding those activities?
Yes.
On February 2nd, you sent a letter to Senator Warner regarding your presence at the raid. Was that letter accurate?
I don't recall the exact date, but if I sent a letter that had my signature, it was accurate.
You stated in the letter that your presence at the raid was, quote, requested by the president, correct?
Yes.
When did the president request your presence at the raid?
The day of the raid, the warrant execution commencing.
The day of the raid.
Yes.
He called you on the phone?
I'm not going to disclose how the message was delivered, but it was a request from the president and his administration to go and help oversee this warrant being executed along with the deputy director of the FBI.
Is it?
I want you to notice the seat shuffle. I'm going to go back, hopefully just a few seconds. I just want you to see the seat shuffle that she does. Hopefully I got it. Here we go.
Members of this committee have already opened inquiries into your election-related activities.
Yes.
And are you aware that your general counsel and deputy general counsel have already provided testimony to this committee regarding those activities?
Yes.
On February 2nd, you sent a letter to Senator Warner regarding your presence at the raid. Was that letter accurate?
I don't recall the exact date, but if I sent a letter that had my signature, it was accurate.
You stated in the letter that your presence at the raid was, quote, requested by the president, correct?
Yes.
When did the president request your presence at the raid?
The day of the raid, the warrant execution commencing.
The day of the raid.
Yes.
He called you on the phone?
I'm not going to disclose how the message was delivered, but it was a request from the president and his administration to go and help oversee this warrant being executed along with the deputy director of the FBI.
Is it your role to oversee?
And to thank the FBI agents who were conducting
Is it
this
your
warrant.
role to oversee the execution?
These hips don't lie. These hips don't lie. Sorry, Shakira. When I lie a bit, I like to shift in my seat and I move my butt a bit. Oh, my hips don't lie, but my mouth does. Watch me shift in my seat. I didn't think the president was even supposed to know about it.
Of criminal warrants?
It is my role, based on statute that Congress has passed, to have oversight over election security, to include counterintelligence.
But you said you oversaw the raid, correct? You just testified you oversaw the raid?
Portions of it.
Okay. Did you handle any ballots or election-related materials?
No.
You were inside an FBI evidence truck, correct? You were photographed inside an FBI evidence truck.
It was an empty truck, yes.
The president stated, quote, you looked at votes that wanted to be checked out.
The
Is that
senator's
accurate?
time is expired.
Did you look at votes as the president?
Senator
cover up
Ossoff,
in
your time is
progress.
expired.
You respond
can
for the
have
record.
Cover up in
No,
progress.
she cannot respond because
For the
Cover up in
record,
progress.
Will the director please respond for the record to that question is my
I'm happy
question.
to respond to questions for the record.
Thank you, Director Gabbard.
Thank you. Vice Chairman?
I just want to, not going to go back to this issue. I'm sure we'll address in the closed setting, but I am very disappointed. This is the only one time a year the public gets to hear from you guys in this kind of setting. And the fact that we have repeated public reporting, including a major story in the Wall Street Journal today about China and Russia assisting Iran, which seems obvious and evident, and none of you would confirm that publicly, I think doesn't give the American people the full challenges of this war.
I would add what I said earlier, that the media is not a classification authority, but certainly sounds like something Russia and China would do, and they have done for decades in the past to Americans. To wrap up a little business here before we adjourn the open session, we will reconvene in 30 minutes in our usual location for the closed session. That's at 12:56 promptly. I do want to note For the record, that Senator Young cannot join us. He is at Dover Air Force Base for the dignified transfer of remains for one of our fallen heroes, a Hoosier. And I would invite everyone to join Senator Young in praying for the family and friends of that soldier and all the soldiers who have given their life in the defense of our freedom and security. General Hartman, I want to again acknowledge you, given your impending retirement, since this is your last appearance for the committee. I'm sure you hope. And
All right, that's enough of that. Wow. Oh my God. Yeah, that whole thing in Atlanta is going to be a problem because now she can be deposed. Mark Elias talked about this, I believe, when the raid first happened, and we read about it in Wake and Bake. And Mark Elias was saying that as a federal officer, her presence at the raid actually is very problematic because now she can be deposed. That's what he said. So we'll find out. But that story is not going to go away and actually is pretty important. Hi, Kim HR Guru. How are you? So good to see you. Dignified transfer of remains has become a thoughts and prayers. Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. The using of people's lives. The using of people's lives. I want to, I don't have too much time left this morning, but I do want to spend just a moment or two. Sorry we didn't get to everything and more Mark Wayne Mullen. Although Mark Wayne Mullen is going to appear in front of somebody else tomorrow. I think the House. So we're going to watch Mark Wayne Mullen make an idiot out of himself. Yeah, it says dignified right on the sign. Yeah, dignified. But whose dignity? And at what cost? That's what I want to know. Doesn't feel very dignified. Certainly doesn't feel dignified when you use it as a picture in a fundraising email. Well, I guess that'll just go nowhere fast. I wanted to, there's a couple of stories. First of all, oil is, doing its thing. It's surging. I was going to, here we go. How China is quietly helping Iran to survive. All right, hold on just a moment. Is that it? Yeah. This is the Wall Street Journal article I think he was talking about. So here we go. Let's see. This is from today. Oh, yeah, I guess it is today. China is a long-standing friend of Iran that has helped sustain the Islamic Republic through decades of sanctions and international isolation. Since the U.S. and Israeli militaries began striking Iran late last month, Beijing has offered Tehran limited public support, condemning the killing of the Iranian leadership while calling on all sides to stop fighting. But its long-standing support for Iran could grow increasingly critical as the war continues. You mean the attack that we did, the invasion? Here's a look at how Beijing has sustained Tehran in recent years. China is Iran's most important economic partner. Roughly 90% of Iran's 1.6 million barrels a day of crude oil exports are sold to China, providing Tehran with the equivalent of tens of billions of dollars of revenue each year. China buys Iranian crude to support its ally and because it gets the oil at a market discount. Analysts estimate Iranian oil makes up 12% of China's total oil imports. The crude is mostly bought by small independent Chinese refineries known as teapots, whose import quotas are regulated by Beijing. China doesn't accept the legitimacy of U.S. sanctions, but wants to maintain plausible deniability since Beijing fears its companies could be subject to U.S. penalties should they engage publicly with sanctioned oil. Beijing encourages the purchase of Iranian oil by independent refineries rather than its state-owned oil giants, since the smaller companies are unconnected to international financial markets and would thus be unaffected by potential U.S. sanctions. The origin of the crude is often masked by brokers. Iran manages a complex, clandestine shadow banking network globally that is facilitated by China, U.S. officials allege. China's teapot refiners pay for Iranian oil in the Chinese currency, the yuan, and Tehran uses some of the money to buy products in China that are then shipped to Iran. Some of the oil revenue is used as part of a barter-like system in which Chinese oil buyers shift money to state-backed Chinese companies to build infrastructure in Iran. Money from oil sales also moves through a web of front companies, often routed through Chinese financial institutions to Hong Kong before it is then converted into other currencies. Much of the cash from oil sales to China remains in bank accounts abroad in financial hubs such as Hong Kong, Dubai, and Singapore, according to U.S. officials. Iranian importers and exporters then trade foreign currency among their various front companies and ledgers on ledgers maintained in Iran. Hong Kong has denied it is used for sanctions evasion. China was once an important supplier of arms to Iran during its war with Iraq in the 1980s, but it ceased approving weapons deals shortly before Beijing joined UN sanctions on Iran in 2007, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. According to U.S. officials, Chinese companies continued, however, to be a critical supplier of goods with potential military applications such as motors that have been used in Iran's Shahed drones, chemicals for rocket fuels, and electronics for an array of weapons. China-based commercial satellite firms have participated in business exchanges with the Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the Pentagon said in December. Last year, 2 ships linked to an Iranian state company left China loaded with 1,000 tons of material that could be used to make a main ingredient for a solid propellant of some 260 mid-range missiles. Oh, the Wall Street Journal has reported. In mid-2025, Iran ordered thousands of tons of missile fuel ingredients from China, according to journal reporting. The Chinese government has said it's unaware of specific orders, but maintains strict control on so-called dual-use items that have both civilian and military applications. Days after the U.S. and Israeli attacks were launched on Iran, 2 more ships connected to the same entity, the Islamic Republic of Iran shipping lines, left a port in China, according to shipping data company Marine Traffic. Oh, that's ours. We watch that. The movement of those ships has raised concerns that Chinese companies could be supplying more rocket fuel precursors to Iran, although the exact cargo hasn't been confirmed. The movement of those ships was earlier reported by the Washington Post. China helped Iran's nuclear program in the 1980s, assisting with development of the Isfahan facility, Iran's largest nuclear research complex, according to the Washington-based nonprofit, the Nuclear Threat Initiative. While China has supported Iran's right to a civilian nuclear program, it is officially opposed to Iran developing nuclear weapons. In recent decades, China doesn't appear to have directly supported Iran's nuclear program. Let me read that again. In recent decades, China doesn't appear to have directly supported Iran's nuclear program, but rather sold missile components and helped evade sanctions for dual-use goods, the bipartisan U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission said in a November report to Congress. China has also helped Iran build international ties and reduce Tehran's isolation. In 2023, Beijing negotiated the restoration of diplomatic ties between Iran and Saudi Arabia, which was seen at the time as a major step in Middle East diplomacy by China. That détente has now been deeply frayed by Iran's attacks on Saudi Arabia and other countries in the region. China also helped Iran join international bodies that expanded its global profile. Beijing and Moscow lobbied for Iran to join the group of emerging economies known as BRICS in 2024. Iran also joined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, a security-focused body led by Beijing and Moscow, in 2023. And in December, it hosted counterterrorism exercises with troops from member states, including China and Russia. And let me tell you, here's the thing. Boy, when I read that, here's what I take away from that. And this is one thing that is a problem in this country and probably in other countries too, but especially in this country, is that our perspective is that China, I mean, when I read that, that's China doing business with Iran. Okay? And we can argue about the way they do business or what they're doing business for, and we can definitely argue about China's human rights abuses as a country and as a government. No problem. Happy to have those conversations. But also, China doesn't want to take over us. Okay? They want us as a customer. Their war is, for the most part, economic. I mean, sure, they're going to be aggressors. Taiwan, we can have that. Hong Kong, we can have all those conversations. I mean, I'm not trying to, stand up for the Chinese Communist Party, but I am just trying to diffuse kind of this like, oh my God, China. And here's what I kept thinking as I was reading that article is why didn't the United States do that? If we were so concerned about the stability of the Middle East and Iran was a linchpin in that, why didn't we negotiate with the Iranians to buy their oil in order to create that economic relationship, which then each party has a vested interest in not, let's say, bombing each other? Why not do that? I mean, 1.6 billion barrels. I mean, what is that? $16 billion or something? I don't know. Is that like $16 billion or something like that? Or whatever. I mean, literally, like, why didn't we do that? It just seems to me that that would be a much better, what was given to Congress. Oh, the report? Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. I don't even know what Congress is doing. Jesus. Okay, unfortunately, I do have to go because I have an appointment that I have to go to. So, oh my goodness, sorry, because this is a great, there's a lot of great stories that we need to talk about. I'll just have to come back tomorrow. So please do join me tomorrow. I'll check and see. I think we're starting at 7 a.m. Pacific tomorrow morning, although I'll check because we might have to start at 6:30. So there's a strong chance I'll probably make sure that we start at 6:30 Pacific tomorrow morning, 9:30 Eastern, everything inside, outside of that. Right back here on this channel. Many countries have business. I know, because, that's the other thing. I think of the world as everyone on this planet has a right to exist on this planet. Sorry, that's just the way it is. So what is our end goal? Is our end goal to make all of the Iranians disappear? Or is our end goal literally that we were going to do, we're just going to kill all the bad Iranians? Like, what is this? And who defines bad? Because my bad might be totally different than Donald Trump's bad. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I don't know. There's some really key fundamental questions, I think, that we need to ask ourselves. And this is part of the collective, and I know I'm kind of like, I don't mean to be self-righteous because I'm not trying to be. I'm just as guilty as anything. I'm trying to have realization. Oh, DW had good Deutsche Welt. Yeah, we loved them. Ich liebe dich. Oh, I love you too. But anyway, have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Hopefully I'll be in a better mood. But other than that, I think you guys are awesome. And I hope you have a really good rest of your day. Okay. Stay cool. Bye.